Hello, everyone. This is Andres Restart. I am joined by my good friend Brandon, and tonight, a Tuesday night, as we have been doing lately, we are going to continue talking about Nintendo, specifically what we have been talking about pretty much throughout the year, but what seems like now the golden age of it, Nintendo Switch 2 leaks. They've just been happening like at an all-time level of frequency, at consistency, and some of them may not be as believable as others. Some of them may be totally legitimate. Everyone has inside sources now. Yeah, things are going on, obviously. Something's cooking. And even if it's all fake, which I do not think it's all fake, there's probably some things that are fake. But I think there's still some real things hidden within. We're getting close, and so now the conversation is just Switch 2 leaks. That it is what it is. That's the conversation. I like, honestly, like that's it. That's what we're talking about. Like, we can talk about how there was nothing from Nintendo at the Game Awards. Right. I just hear a chicken in the background.
That's my cat.
Your cat's a rooster?
That's hilarious.
But so your cat was meowing in the background. All right.
Yeah, he was
not a rooster.
Yeah, he was right behind my shoulder.
Okay.
Not a rooster.
Not a rooster.
My parents have not roosters. They have chickens.
Chickens.
Yes. The hens, I guess.
I'm getting hungry now.
Not necessarily.
I don't know, man.
Although
I don't
laying,
Yeah.
Hens.
It gets a little weird. Gets a little weird for me when I start thinking about eating animals that are cute and adorable.
Yeah.
I got that disconnect.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, well, let's briefly touch on the Game Awards because there's not much to say in terms of Nintendo stuff. Then we'll check on the chat, and then we're gonna jump into all the Switch 2 leak stuff. We'll be talking about Metroid Prime 4. We'll be talking about Mario Kart 9 or 10 or whatever it's called. 3D Mario, the 40th anniversary, the C button on the Switch 2. Are these leaks real? What aren't? What are? The inside sources. What are we hearing? What are other people hearing? There's so much to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We got a lot to get into, but briefly, very briefly, let's touch on the Game Awards from last week. Unfortunately, I think I already put my video. I did put my video out on this already. I will take the L. I thought we would have Nintendo news, and I put up some numbers in my video on it a few days ago. I looked at the history of the Game Awards because they did just celebrate their 10-year anniversary or something like that, which means it's actually been 11 years of Game Awards because the first one was year 0. And now year 10 is the 11th.
Interesting.
Yes. So, okay. I got my percentages here, right? In the year 2014, the first Game Awards, there was a trailer for Zelda U. It was actually a hands-on demo.
Right.
With Eiji Aonuma and Shigeru Miyamoto.
Right.
2015, nothing. 2016, we had another hands-on demo with Bill Trinan of Breath of the Wild. 2017, Breath of the Wild one game of the year, and also we had a trailer for Champions Vow DLC, and it was also shadow dropped. 2018, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, a published Nintendo title, along with the reveal of Joker from Persona and Smash Ultimate. 2019, Bravely Default 2, published by Nintendo in some regions, I believe. In 2020, we got another Smash character. They had the whole One Winged Angel song, Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth, and Smash Brothers. 2021, got nothing. 2022, Fire. Oh, by the way, I skipped Bayonetta 1 through 3. By the way, for 2017, alongside the Breath of the Wild DLC trailer. So that was a lot. But anyways, back to 2022, Fire Emblem Engage and Bayonetta Origins announced. Fire Emblem Engage DLC. 2023, there was technically nothing premiering at the show, but when the show started at 8 p.m. Eastern time, Nintendo did announce 364 games. So they announced 364 games coming to Switch Online during the show, and then this year, nothing. So not counting this year, right? Just looking at the statistics, right? Like I'm looking at this from like a sports analyst perspective, right? It made sense to predict that there would be a Nintendo announcement at the show because let's say you don't want to count the N64 games last year. Even if you don't want to count the N64 games from last year, there would still be a 70% chance, based off historical precedent, that there would be a Nintendo announcement. If you count the N64 games, it would be 80%. But now, since we got another year where there was no Nintendo announcement, right? If you count the N64 games, 72%, including this recent absence. If you don't count the N64 games, 64%. So no matter how you look at it, no matter how you spin it, history suggests that odds are in the favor of there being a Nintendo announcement at the awards show. And that's just talking about like something happening, right? Because if we want to count the years where there's more than one thing, then like, you know, you could arguably increase the odds. We're not doing that. It was just, you know, if something happened, right? So I'll take the L on being wrong on expecting something. But I will also say this time, like tonight, right? Okay. Last Tuesday night. That's what I meant to say. Last Tuesday night when we had the live stream, we talked about how, hey, there are three things that seem like a possibility for Nintendo to show off at the show. More on Prime 4. That did not happen. Maybe more on Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. That did not happen. Or perhaps our first proper full trailer of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD since its announcement in the June Direct.
Right.
Well, one of those three things did happen last week.
Just the Game Awards.
Just not the Game Awards. The day before. We got our overview trailer for Country Returns HD. We knew we needed it, and they gave it to us. Just not the award show. They intentionally did not put it at the award show. Maybe because they realized he would have been pissed if they just showed Donkey Kong at the award show. I don't know. But they didn't do it. So it's a little weird. But anyways, Nintendo decided to be a no-show this time around. Which to me is a little disappointing because there is a history of it. This is the 10-year anniversary of the award show. Nintendo is a big part of the industry. And so it's a celebration of gaming. And to not see Nintendo there, to me, it's a little disappointing from that perspective.
Especially when there was a lot of like really cool announcements from other companies. Like basically everybody but Nintendo. There was even a new Naughty Dog game announced for Sony.
Yo, Sony dominated the award show, dude.
Yeah.
They
had so many reveals. There was just in gaming in general, there was a lot of really good trailers.
What was that dragon flying game? I know it has Crimson in the name because it's not. Crimson Skies is like a not the name.
I don't know why I'm thinking Panzer Dragoon.
Crimson Desert? Crimson Desert.
I'm not aware of that one, actually. I didn't see the trailer for that. I didn't want to watch the award show. I just went back and watched
Crimson Desert looks insane, dude.
I'll have to go back and check that one out.
Yeah.
I'm really hyped for
it's a medieval fighting
game that was announced.
You fly around and kill people with dragons.
I mean, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why the name is eluding me for some reason, but the Obsidian sequel that got announced. If anybody in the comments.
I didn't watch the award show. I just saw a few trailers.
It's.
Okami
I don't know why
2.
I can only think of Fallout 3 and not the same game. That's a different game.
Outer
Worlds 2, I think, is the name.
Obsidian.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ernest.
Okay.
Outer Worlds 2. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah. That one I'm really hyped for. The first game is really, really good. It's actually
I remember
Switch.
you like talking a lot about Outer Worlds 1. Yeah, that might come to Switch too. That could be a Switch.
They probably will. That's one I'm definitely think it's going to come to Switch too.
I wonder if Crimson Desert will come to Switch too. I see it on Steam. For a moment I thought it was just a PlayStation game.
Well, I mean, PlayStation if it's a multiplayer title. They had been doing day and date launches with PC for their multiplayer games. So,
I don't know. There's Okami 2. We had Witcher 4.
Yeah, that's
those games.
Witcher 4 looked really good. All these
could come to Switch 2 because I mean, Witcher 3 was on Switch, right?
Yeah. I expect Witcher
Okami's
4 to
been
come
on
eventually.
Several Nintendo platforms.
Okami's a shoo-in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Switch 2 is like one of the. Because sometimes if a game is coming to Switch, they like have that as the baseline platform and then scale it up for the other consoles.
Sure.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that. Not that they necessarily have to, but it does work out really well sometimes. And I don't know, Okami and Nintendo for me, are very linked for some reason, but I don't know why I feel that way, to be honest. It's just a gut feeling.
I mean, Okami initially came out on PlayStation 2, but it was kind of like PlayStation 2's like Zelda, kind of.
Yeah, right.
Very Zelda-esque.
It has been on several Nintendo platforms.
Oh, I gotta tell you though, I have
after
Okami
some.
on Switch, and maybe I'll get canceled for this, but I'm not in love with it. I don't know. Maybe it just hasn't aged that well for me.
I've not played Okami.
Yeah.
I've watched 100%.
Like I don't hate it, but
so I know about the game, but I have not played it.
I've played it, and what the version I played on Switch, maybe there's something wrong with the Switch version. Maybe I just gotta give it another try. That happens sometimes. You play a game, you're not feeling it, you just gotta give it another try sometime later.
Right.
But I just didn't feel like continuing. So I didn't. Yeah. That said, I feel like a modern Okami, because it's an old game, right? It came out on PlayStation 2 initially. Like a modern Okami game, I'm sure. One, I'm very curious how the game's gonna look, right? Like because they showed like the trailer.
Right.
The trailer was not gameplay. It was just like a moving painting, which the game may look like.
Right.
And I'm very curious how it's gonna look. But I also bet with like modern gameplay improvements, it's gonna flow a lot better. So I'm very curious on it for sure. Another game that I was kind of annoyed at first, but once I learned more about it, I was less annoyed. Was Elden Ring Night Rain. There's a good chance I'll buy it, to be honest with you.
I'm curious if that game would be good.
And just so we're clear, right? It was like 8:05. I had finished eating, and I was like, okay, the podcast is ready. I do have some time to continue playing Demon's Souls. So I did. Demon's Souls is a Soulsborne game. So just to put things into perspective, I'm a huge Soulsborne fan. So more Elden Ring content, that's great. And actually, before I started playing Demon's Souls, I was playing Shadow of the Erdtree. And I probably should be playing Mario and Luigi Brothership, but I feel like playing Demon's Souls more right now. So, I mean, I will say Demon's Souls is a better game. But that's just my taste, I guess.
Fair enough. I mean, Demon's Souls did get like absolutely outstanding reviews, whereas Brothership did not. So,
yeah. I mean, Brothership is also a good game. It's just, they're very different games. Like you shouldn't. I don't even know why I'm comparing them. It's just I intended on playing through Brothership, but Demon's Souls has kind of captured my attention. Anyways, point is, I'm a big Soulsborne fan, so you would think I'd want to see more Elden Ring stuff, right? But I mean, we just got Shadow of the Erdtree this year. It's like a big expansion. Like it's so big, it's almost its own game.
Also, this isn't even like really Elden Ring. It's like some multiplayer Fortnite-esque thing.
Kinda. That's the thing. It's a spin-off, right? At first, I didn't realize what it was. I thought it was a sequel, which I thought was cool, but I was also like in shock. I was like, wait, how could they pull this off? It's actually more like a Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity kind of thing. Because like I was actually thinking, man, the way From Software has handled Elden Ring, I think is how they should handle like Zelda. Like come out with a big game, right? Take many years to make it, right? Because it took them a long time to get to finish Elden Ring. But once they finally did, they didn't even rush out the DLC. They took a while with the DLC, right? Because Elden Ring came out 2022. The expansion didn't come out till 2024, right? So like they had to wait. I don't remember the exact release date because I never looked it up. But point is, like it was like almost a couple of years basically, right? For the expansion, I think that's reasonable. Imagine the next Zelda game comes out. It's not coming out soon, guys, right? Let's talk about the next big 3D open world Zelda game. But then 2 to 3 years later, they give us like a big expansion quest, right? Maybe it's so big to even have its own separate physical release, but it's essentially just an expansion to the game, and that's significant. And then there'll probably be a remake or two, and then we have to wait years for the next new one. I think that's a better format than just doing what they did with like Breath of the Wild 2, because I think we would get more Zelda games that way, or more Zelda content that way, in a way that most people would find palatable. Right. And so that's kind of been my thinking in terms of how From Software's been handling this. But then when they announced Night Rain, I was like, wait, how is this possible? And then I realized it's not a direct sequel. It's a spin-off where it's kind of almost like a casualized version of Elden Ring, where it's 3 people playing. Like you mentioned Fortnite, like there is like a flame close. I'm very interested in this. Like if you play for like 45 minutes in phases and fight different bosses, I think it's gonna be cool. I'm curious about it, but it's definitely not normal Soulsborne gameplay.
I think it could be fun. I mean, it's not a battle royale or anything like Fortnite. It's just that it has like you drop in, kind of like you have this like the flying bird instead of the battle bus, and you
Yeah, you
drop
have
in
a
on the
limited amount of
map, and
time.
then the map closes, and then like it all accumulates into like a boss at the end.
Yeah.
I don't. It could be fun. It doesn't
Oh, I think it's
sound
gonna be
like
fun.
something that's like
I think it's gonna be very fun.
I don't
But
know.
but anyways, just to kind of keep this for everyone to keep in mind, Elden Ring alongside Night Rain, right? Its spinoff, I think, are probably coming to Nintendo Switch too, alongside a variety of games we've already mentioned. Um, and so I get that if there's anything to take away in terms of Nintendo stuff from the Game Awards, is that there were a lot of third-party things that may very well be playable on Switch 2 in the not so distant future, and some rumors that came out this week seem to be supporting that idea. One last final thought on the Game Awards stuff, and Brandon, if you have anything else to add, please do. But I really appreciated how Astrobot, which is probably actually my favorite personal game of the year because it feels like Mario Galaxy 3.
I really want to play that.
It's a very polished game. It's very good. There's a lot of really cool creative ideas, and then also clearly a lot of other ideas inspired from other Nintendo games, especially Mario. But I loved it won Game of the Year and other awards. But also I loved that Team Asobi, the makers of Astrobot, on stage when receiving the award, they made sure to pay homage to Nintendo. They even talked about the original Super Mario Brothers and how Mario inspired Astrobot. They could not say Nintendo themselves, and they alluded to that because, Sony, right? But it was very interesting to see that it was a PlayStation studio that was honoring and respecting Nintendo more than Nintendo. And so I feel like that kind of highlights my feelings on this year overall, if that makes any sense. Like, it's a down year. This is a transition year. But I mean, as I was mentioning earlier, I'm playing my PlayStation more than my Switch right now. Why? Because there's games I want to play on my PlayStation more than my Switch. And, there's tons of announcements at the Game Awards related to PlayStation, but not Nintendo. And I don't think Nintendo's less than Sony. No, I think Nintendo's greater than Sony, but they're keeping all their cards close to the chest right now. And we're kind of just like, we're waiting, right? We're waiting for them to finally come out swinging. And so I'm eager for that. But that's pretty much all my thoughts on the award show. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I guess I don't know if I have anything to say on the Game Awards itself other than like thinking back on it, I guess it kind of makes sense that Nintendo wasn't there because it just costs a lot of money to put a trailer in the Game Awards, and if you're not ready to put in something big, and I mean, they could have shown Prime 4. It's probably the biggest thing that they could have shown. I believe it's like $250,000, by the way, per trailer to put in the Game Awards or something ridiculous. But they could have shown Prime 4, but it may just be that they weren't ready to show it, or they didn't want to show it at that event. They're probably going to show it off pretty soon anyways. So, like, we'll probably see it in, like, maybe even just a couple weeks at an event with Switch 2. We'll get more into that later. But, yeah, it kind of makes sense that they didn't show anything here. Like, because a lot of the other things they could have shown were small, and, like, the Donkey Kong, like, yeah, just show them. Don't pay $250,000 to put a trailer for Donkey Kong at the Game Awards.
That might also explain why the N64 games were just announced on Twitter last year at 8 p.m. Eastern time, because that was way cheaper, and they still had the same benefit of and they did during the award show, right? Like, they were still part of that. But I want to pull a poll for the chat right now. What is better for Nintendo to do? Big game trailer at Game Awards or big Switch 2 commercial at the Super Bowl?
I think the Super Bowl now is something like $1 million or $2 million for a 30-second ad or something ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. So I put up the poll. By the way, we're coming to the chat in a moment here. I don't know, but I mean, when you think about it from a financial perspective, I guess if you don't have anything you really want to like heavily market, then don't. But like, the thing is, like, they Bayonetta Origins was announced at the award show. Fire Emblem Engage DLC was at the award show, right? Like, so I just want to what I'm trying to clarify here. I don't want people to think that the only things that are going to be at the award show are things about games that sell 30 million copies. Like, that's so far from the truth. It's not even close.
Well,
right? Like,
that is looking back in the past, whereas the Game Awards has grown significantly over the years. It's probably far more expensive now to put a trailer than it was even just a couple of years ago. Like, the Game Awards has exploded into this absolutely colossal event. It's probably considerably more expensive than it ever has been to put a trailer in there. Yeah. But I could be wrong. You know, I don't know the cost of trailers
I don't know the
along
numbers.
the years.
But
I just want to put that out there, just as a little, you know, devil's advocate or whatever.
It's something to keep in mind, at least, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, though, you said a couple of years, so I mean, you know, it has been a couple of years at this point. But Fire Emblem Engage and Bayonetta Origins were announced at Game Awards 2022, 2 years ago. And neither of those games are like 5+ million sellers, right? No. So Fire Emblem Engage DLC, just so we're clear, in case someone's like trying to hold me to like, hey, you said yeah. Anyway, point, like, those aren't like really big giant things, you know.
No.
So I wouldn't say like Nintendo's only gonna be at the award show when they have a giant game that's like a 30 million seller. Like,
probably not.
We've seen all sorts of examples. I don't know. You know, I thought it made sense for them to be at the award show this time because we do have the Switch 2 supposedly around the corner. Is it a sign that maybe the Switch 2 isn't around the corner?
I don't think so. I think this is just confirms that this is like the calm before the storm. Like they're just holding back completely.
Looking at my
the floodgates are yet to be loosed.
I will tell you, like, I brought this up in my video a few days ago about how my feelings in the awards, but there is an interesting difference between this holiday season versus 2016. So, and for those that may not understand the comparison I'm making here, going back to 2016, we were months away from the release of Switch 1, and we think we're months away from the release of Switch 2, maybe a few more months, but still just, you know, like half a year or so at most is what we're thinking. The difference is that in December 2016, the Switch was already revealed.
Yeah.
In this case, the Switch 2 has not been revealed yet. And so I think purely because the Switch 2 is apparently coming out like maybe like 3 months, like 2 to 3 months later than Switch 1 did, you know, but, you know, 8 years into the past, that may be the reason why there was no presence at the Game Awards this time around, just because the timeline just a little bit further down the road. And I also think that's why we haven't seen a reveal this year. It's not because of holiday sales or anything like that. It's really just because Nintendo's not targeting a March release. They're targeting a little bit later. And so they're going to wait a little bit later. And a little bit later puts us beyond this year.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I don't really have too much to add on that. I just kind of agree.
Just disagree. Just because.
Or don't, because
this was supposed to be a short little, like, appetizer.
I mean,
for the rest of the
Nintendo basically said at one of the not investor meeting, I forget where they said this, but they pretty much said that they didn't think that announcing it would affect the sales. They just didn't want to announce it yet.
Yeah, so the president of Nintendo, Shuntaro Furukawa, at the shareholders meeting, he was asked about this, right? He was asked about this, and he said that he doesn't really think that knowledge of the Switch 2 would impact Switch sales. He can't say for sure, but it was essentially said that it would be negligible.
Which I agree with.
Yeah, and so really, Nintendo, something else Nintendo has said during their investors meeting questions and stuff is that they have a plan for the Switch 2 reveal. It just hasn't happened yet. So, but apparently the reveal's next month. So we'll talk about that in a moment here. But I want to get into the live chat, see how everyone's doing, and then we'll kind of continue on. I'm assuming everything is looking and sounding okay.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
30
normally I ask
minutes
that at the
in.
beginning of the stream, but I didn't ask. But if in case there's any issues,
Could you
people let me
imagine?
know. I'd very much appreciate it. By the way, the poll that I put up, what is better for Nintendo to do 5 minutes ago? 80% said Switch 2 commercial at the Super Bowl as opposed to a big game trailer at the Game Awards. So, we'll see what
Interesting.
happens. If the Switch 2 is revealed in January, they are positioned for a commercial in February for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Shout outs to Having Hope. Hello there. Wilberforce Wooster asks, do you think Nintendo was punishing the Game Awards for hyping up Power World expansion? I really don't think so. No, I don't. I mean, no, I don't. No.
Yeah, not at all.
Like, no, I just don't. I don't think they're that petty. Also, like,
not anymore.
I don't
Maybe
even think
this
they
was
care
the
that Power
90s.
World exists. Like, there's also like there's different departments that do different
They're not
things.
even suing them for copyright infringement. They're suing them for like patent infringement.
I mean, you could argue that they're just doing what they can to sue them in some way, because they can't sue them for copying Pokemon.
But I don't think
Yeah.
that they're like mad at them. They're just just standard issue legal stuff.
But also, Nintendo's not one person, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's different departments that have different responsibilities. You have the developers, right? You have the executives, you have the legal team, you have the sales team. Like, there's different
in terms of
departments and
third-party
different
relations
philosophies
and
that
stuff.
they abide by, right? Like, maybe it's the legal team that has to take a look at things like this, right? But
Yeah.
like, Anuma might not even care, like.
They probably didn't even know that trailer was gonna be in the Game Awards anyways. It's not like Nintendo gets told everything that's gonna be in the
That's
Game
another
Awards
good.
beforehand.
That's a really good point, Brandon. Like, why would Jeff Keighley say, "Hey, Nintendo, just so you know, there's gonna be a Power World trailer"? Like, why they wouldn't do that? I don't think you would. You might,
Yeah.
but I doubt it.
I doubt that Nintendo has access to all the information
I
about
don't
everything
know.
that's happening in the Game Awards. Like, why would
Nintendo
they?
intelligence agents are incredible. They
Yeah,
find out
true.
all sorts of things. They're like, oh, we
They
found
know
out through our
everything.
secret sources that you are supporting this small video game company that kind of copies us. We hate you. No, I don't think so. I doubt it. Gerald Toki asks me, do you think all the rumors plus Nintendo's silence may be setting up for unrealistic Switch 2 expectations and thus disappointment?
Wait. Say that one more time.
JRL Tolkien asked, do you think all the rumors plus Nintendo's silence may be setting us up for unrealistic Switch 2 expectations and thus disappointment?
Okay.
Well,
I mean, it
so
depends on what your expectations are. I mean, if you actually just look at the leaks and take them at face value, I mean, interpretation is a lot, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if you're looking at different things and you don't understand what that means, maybe you're interpreting it to be better than it is. But the information, if you know what it means and you look at it, like, I don't think it's going to be misleading in any way, really. I mean, maybe people might be disappointed in terms of like performance because we still don't have like a firm grasp on what it can do performance-wise, like graphically, and like what type of features are going to be deployed. Like, we don't know if ray tracing is going to be something that's like viable in a lot of games or not. Things like that. 4K, we don't know if that's something that's going to be super viable a lot. But otherwise, like, basically, everything we have is just like pretty, like, unless you're interpreting something out of it that's not there, like, I don't think you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I'm not worried about disappointment for this. Like, basically what I'm about to say, I can understand how from one point of view, maybe setting things up for disappointment, but this is what I believe. Where if there's a time to be overly hyped and excited, to have great anticipation for a Nintendo event, it is the Switch 2 reveal. This is, and it kind of goes back to what I was sort of alluding to earlier when I started the stream. Like, right now, what we're talking about is just Switch 2 leaks. And I was kind of like thinking about this earlier, like, man, like all I've talked about lately is Switch 2. I do like to mix it up, but there's not really much to mix it up with. And so like I've had a little bit of like an ethical kind of debate with myself about this, but I realized something. At least for this channel, right? For the most part, what this channel is about is theorizing and speculating and analyzing the future of Nintendo, right?
Right.
And so right now, all we're talking about is Switch 2, but guess what? The future of Nintendo is the Switch 2. This is the big thing because the Switch 2 is literally everything. It's literally everything. It's Nintendo's entire future.
They don't have another pillar like when they have the 3DS.
Right, like that's a really interesting point, Brandon, that you brought up there, because once upon a time, it wasn't just one console. They kind of divvied it up a little bit, but now that we only focus on one platform at a time, the transition is even more significant. It's even more major. It's more reason to perhaps get excited, because we are talking
about
about
big games are
an entire generational leap here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and this is gonna be other than maybe N64 to GameCube, this will probably be the biggest generational leap we've ever seen from a Nintendo console.
What was the exception you brought up?
N64 to GameCube. I mean, you could count SNES to N64, but it's weird because 3D versus 2D, and
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big jump, but yeah, it was a whole dimensional jump.
A whole dimension.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. But I think that's an interesting discussion to have. It's not one I want to have tonight because there's so much to like dive into. I will say though that the 3DS to Switch jump was pretty big. So.
Oh yeah, I mean if you count that because they're both handhelds, but I kind of going Wii U to Switch.
I get what you're saying there. I mean, and the other interesting thing about that is that like Switch is only a little bit more powerful than Wii U, so like we're talking about
Punches above probably its weight, though.
It does a great job for what it is, but it's just that we're looking at like if you've been accustomed to like Wii U level graphics, like Breath of the Wild level graphics as like top tier Nintendo stuff since the Wii U era basically, right? Like we're about to see like a huge jump there. So yeah, it's exciting. And anyways, to get back to JR Toki's point, there's always going to be people who are going to be disappointed. Like there are people who see Metroid Prime 4 and don't think it looks cool. And I'm like, listen, because I edit videos on this, right? I have a trailer that's what's the word? I have a special version of the trailer that's I'm having a brain fart. It is high res for what it is. It's uncompressed or something.
Oh, uncompressed.
Yeah, it's uncompressed. Yeah, that was it. There's something else crazy about it. But I mean, it looks good. It looks really good. And so when I look at it, right, like sometimes I hear people who say, "Oh yeah, it doesn't look that good," blah blah blah. And every time I go back to the trailer and I go frame by frame, I'm like, Metroid Prime 4
looks really good.
Looks really good.
For something that's made on the Switch, it's like mind blowing.
It is mind blowing. Yeah, it is mind blowing. And
at 60 FPS?
At 60 FPS, right, exactly. And so, we bring that up just to kind of highlight that there are people who don't think that trailer looks cool. Brandon and I look at this trailer like, oh my god, how does this exist? Right? Like, so like, there's just opinions exist, but I think ultimately, once Nintendo shows off the Switch 2, the majority of people are going to be extremely happy about this, and I don't think we should be really worried about tempering expectations. Like obviously, listen, you got to keep some things in reason to an extent, right? Like don't expect Half-Life 5, don't like
don't be expecting every game 4K 60 FPS with PS5 level visuals.
No, it's gonna be reasonable. It's gonna be
this is a PS5 Pro on the go.
It's gonna be 4K 60 PS4 Pro level graphics on. I'm just kidding.
Well, I could maybe see that.
Well, it depends. Anyways,
that's basically just PS4 graphics.
The main point is like, listen, I think it's totally reasonable to like be excited for a next generation console and be excited to see a handful of big new Nintendo games and some cool third party stuff as well. Like that's
Yeah.
That's a reasonable expectation. Lino Gertz. Hi everyone, my first live stream with Andre's Restart. Welcome. Usually I only watch his videos since I live in Europe and it's middle of the night here. Well, good luck staying up. I'm glad you're watching. I appreciate you. Hello there, Super Gaming. Scrolling through. Steven Guy. Nintendo just doesn't like Jeff Keighley. I don't know about that. Link exists. At you, Brandon, or at me, and says, Brandon, you're looking good, pal. First time seeing what you look like. Hey, that profile picture is doing work. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Guy you don't know. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, also at the award show. Looks cool. I'll probably check that one out.
That did look cool.
That was a good announcement. Link Exists added me. This is from our conversation about earlier, but they said, but Obsidian is owned by Xbox. I know they can be lax with what they port, but I do hope Outer Worlds 2 comes to Switch too. I played the first game on Switch and loved it. Honestly, I think like pretty much almost every single Microsoft game has a decent chance to come to Switch too.
I mean, Microsoft in general is basically becoming a third party. That's the direction of travel for them. They're still probably going to be making boxes, but their goal is to be able to play Xbox games on anything, basically. I believe the game's already... I have to look, but I think it's already confirmed to be coming to other platforms. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a PlayStation trailer that has the Xbox Game Studios logo in it, because I remember Digital Foundry commenting on that when they were talking about it. So yeah, I believe it's already confirmed to be coming to PlayStation, so yeah.
They could come to Nintendo. Yeah. Tall Show says that Okami is currently $4.99 on the eShop. That is a really good observation, Tall Show. So for those that are interested in Okami, it's $5. That's a deal.
Yeah, it's a steal.
A steal deal. Guy you don't know, Atsy, Nintendo already released an expansion for a Zelda game. It's called Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, it just took
$70
too
expansion. Yeah. Yeah, it took them the entire duration of Breath of the Wild development to make the sequel. That was a long time. There's a variety of factors there, which we've discussed in the past, so I'm not going to dive into that now.
No, not today.
Lino Gertz, do we know if this next handheld guy actually had the Switch 2 or was in a room with one at the moment and God's leak from that short impression from a meeting of sort? Man. We're going to get to that. I mean, I'm trying to decide what I'm allowed to say. I believe it's already been made public what that person shared. I don't know why it went public, but it hasn't already been made public. And so because it's already been made public, I may be at liberty to say what's going on. Okay, so here on Twitter, I see that Cabby, or at Cure Pink Fury, posted some Fanny Board stuff, and they said mods at Fanny Boards are bringing into question the veracity of recent Nintendo Switch 2 leaks in the Redditor named Next Handheld. They are saying that the photos he showed to Fanny Boards mods aren't enough, and they're calling the mods of Reddit Switch 2 for even suggesting so. Calling out, I guess. So I've seen some of the photos. I'll tell you that my first reaction to the couple I've seen, apparently there's a lot more photos that were shared, and so I haven't seen the full extent of what was shared. I've just seen a little piece. What I saw wasn't enough for me to be like, oh, okay, this is 100% real. However, it also wasn't, oh, this is fake. It wasn't that either. It was just, I need more evidence than this. But I will say that they showed, I mean, this is public. It's public. I just want to make sure it's public information. There are pictures of the Switch 2 dock. So what I saw, I could believe it's a real Switch 2 dock.
Okay.
But there are some people who are really good at at 3D printing stuff and making
3D printers
things.
have gotten so good these days,
Right,
too.
like, someone could have done that. I mean, I saw like code numbers and stuff, like serial numbers and stuff, like, so it looked legit. It did. It also looked like they put their phone up really close and took them at angles that were kind of hidden, because this is supposedly at an event where they probably wouldn't actually be allowed to take pictures of this. So that whole thing also kind of has me scratching my head, like, how did this even happen? How did they get away with this? Is this legit or not? It's like, there are certainly, like, I don't know if I want to go as far as saying red flags, but there are certain questions I have about the entire league, for sure. I want it to be real.
Right.
And in my video about it, I have an entire section where I bring up things I'm kind of iffy on. But I will say that it could be real. It's up for debate. Hence why the thumbnail for the video has giant 350 font rumor. Rumor, right?
Rumor.
So we're clear on that. But I wouldn't. I think the thing is with most of these things, you have to learn to take it with a grain of salt, right? Like, don't assume for sure it's real. But I mean, also
do salt shakers out.
I think it goes both ways though, right? Like, I think sometimes people like to be like, no, there's no way it's real. We don't have 100% proof or evidence, and that's fine. We don't. But if you want to engage in these discussions, it might, right? And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So yeah, what I saw, it's possibly real, but I need more evidence to say for sure.
There's nothing that, and we'll get more into it, but there's nothing that I've seen of it that even seems like that crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Chris Thorndike, why is everyone obsessed with a button? Because why not?
Because it's a new button. It probably has significant function if it needs its own button.
Yeah, I mean, we're just curious. Like, it's something new. Like, what does it mean? What does it do?
What it do?
We want to know.
What that button do, though.
Yeah. As Leno says, because it's mysterious.
Yeah.
Or as Pokemon Fan 33 says, because it summons chocolate. C for chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah. Sorry if I screamed too loud into the mic. Chocolate. But could be. Let me come back to, I got a few super chats here. Boo Mini has gifted a membership, and Ernest Jansen has been the lucky winner of this membership. Boo Mini, you are the MVP, and welcome, Ernest Jansen, to the Legends membership program here. Chrono Rig, another member, has been a member for 26 straight months. Shout out to you. And Chrono Rig actually also had a super chat as well. Thank you for the super chat, Chrono.
Nice.
Chrono here says, hey, Andre, for the Switch, we got Square and Atlas Switch exclusives at the reveal. Do you think we'll get exclusive games from them again?
Ooh.
Yes.
Probably. I guess.
Yes. Like,
sure.
To put
he seems confident.
I am. But
I mean, Square usually makes something, like, even if it's not big, there's probably something.
So Atlas
be at the
Atlas is Shin Megami Tensei 5, right? That's what we're talking about, the SMT 5 announcement and the Switch 1 presentation January 2017. What was the Square one? Was it the Octopath Traveler thing?
Probably.
Was that announced back in 2017?
I don't remember. See, that's why I'm not confident it's going to be, because I don't even remember if there was one at the initial one.
Well, so anyways, but the question isn't if we'll see exclusives announced from them at the reveal or presentation. It's just if we'll get more exclusives from them again, period. And so, yeah. But what I do feel confident in saying is I do believe. So I don't know if there's going to be exclusives from Square Atlas. I don't, but we've gotten them before, and I do believe with extreme confidence that Atlas and Square are going to be supporting the Switch 2 significantly.
Oh yeah.
And so with that in mind, I feel safe guessing that there will be exclusives at some point down the road, but that would really come down to the direction of the company. Do they want to pivot more so in just having like third parties across the board? Hard to say. Either way, I think both companies are going to be supporting Switch 2, if not the same as they did on Switch 1, more so. That's what I feel good on saying.
Yeah, I think third-party support is going to be probably the biggest it's been in decades for Nintendo.
Yeah, it's big, and I do want to get to some of the things that people are saying in terms of like rumor leak talk, but we'll get there.
Cool.
Boo Mini with the super chat as well. Thank you for the super chat, Boo Mini. Do you think Nintendo Museum will eventually have an online store?
Probably not. I mean, the point of the museum, like to have exclusive merch, is like make you want to go there to get it.
Like the thing is, like, you can buy like. I guess a better question to ask would be: does a Nintendo World Store have an online shop? Because if that doesn't have an online shop, then I don't think the museum ever will.
I don't think it does. I mean, Nintendo sells stuff online, but I don't think it's branded that way.
World Store.
I could be wrong, but I think it's just the Nintendo
New York,
online.
the gaming store for all ages.
Yeah, because they sell like plushies and stuff online, but I think it's just under the Nintendo online like store.
Featured products. Let me screen share this with you guys. This is the Nintendo New York store website. This is the featured products section. Look at all those Yoshis. Iggy.
Yeah.
Oh, I want an Iggy.
Man, I wanted to go to this store so bad when I was in New York, but I was not in New York, New York. I was very far away from there.
Oh, by the way, I'm almost like 100% sure that I'm going to PAX East this May, which is in Boston, not New York, but maybe I can make it like a northeastern United States exploration adventure.
Yeah.
And I'll probably have a +1, so Brandon, you're part of the Andres Restart team. We're gonna have to do some filming of them Switch 2s at PAX.
That'd be hype. That's gonna be hype.
Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have said almost 100, but I mean, it's closer to 100 than it is to 0.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Anyways, looking at the website here, like I don't really see them selling stuff. There's Alarmo, like yeah. So there's not like a shop, right?
No.
So I guess no, not here. What I am curious on though, because I saw there is a merchandise store though.
Yeah, there is a merchant, like you can buy Nintendo merchandise online. Yeah. It's just not. I don't think it's branded Nintendo World, or I think it's just Nintendo Store or something.
Yeah. So here it is, right? And actually, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. Like you have the Lego set over here. Like so, it seems like things that. Look at what? There's a bag of the Princess Zelda Wanda poster. Oh, look at that hoodie, man. This is a place to waste your money.
It's probably quality, maybe. I don't know.
A lot of Lego stuff.
If anybody's bought the merch on this website, let us know in the comments if it's high quality.
The Animal Crossing Dodo Airlines hat. I love that. You can pretend you're like, you work for the airline.
I mean, the prices aren't the worst thing I've ever seen.
Are you sure about that?
Oh, God. Okay, maybe.
Hey, I need an oven mitt.
$25 for an oven mitt, yes. It's got a hot pad with it too,
Oh,
worth $25.
Okay, all right. Oh, I got a yellow one. I wouldn't wear that. Ooh, cereal bowls. Oh, they're ceramic. Ooh, a cookie jar. All right, I'm done. This is actually kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, I don't think there's gonna be a specific museum online store.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But there's a merchandise store which seems to kind of just carry things in general, like not just from one place. So if there are interesting things that are up for sale, you might be able to find it there. Taker610 with another super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Taker. The reveal, I think, will focus on the hardware and its features while showing short clips, I think you meant. I'm thinking shirts because I was just looking at shirts on the merchandise website. Short clips of games. The first Switch 2 Direct will be on February 5th.
Oof.
The reveal, I think, will focus hard. Features while showing for games. Wow. You really think we're going to get a reveal in January and then a direct at the beginning of February?
That's what I
Yeah.
believe he's saying here.
I would love that. I would
It would be
love
hype.
that.
I mean, honestly, I could see a reveal in January and a direct in possibly as early as February, but I would think maybe a little bit later. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's not out of the question as far as
No.
it being on February 5th. I think that's. I mean, there's the investors meeting or whatever, right? Kind of seems weird to do it on the same day, maybe the day before or something. I don't know if have they done that before on the same day.
They've been around the same time before.
Well, yeah, but like the day before usually, right?
I don't want to. Honest, I'm gonna be frank with you. Like, I don't want to go and look through all the dates of shareholders meetings and Nintendo Directs and sort that out. I am just telling you that I know they've been closed multiple times.
Yeah.
So take that for what you will. Call me lazy. I
kind of would expect, reveal January and February be more focused on like Switch 1 stuff that still needs to be revealed, like Pokemon Direct.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we need news on.
And
that's
more
the crazy
games
part.
For Switch 1.
It's a good point, Brandon. Like, we're due for some crazy news and like we might have to go like a month before getting anything major, but once that we get through this month, things are gonna pick up like crazy. And what's interesting is things have picked up in terms of like the rumor leak department is probably gonna be rampant, right?
Oh yeah,
but in terms of like official news from Nintendo, once we're like into that second or third week, I imagine things are gonna pick up. I mean, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD comes out the 16th of January. There is a rumor that we'll have news on the 11th of January about Switch 2, but I think that's bogus because that's a Saturday. Which apparently came from Next Handheld, the person who had the Switch 2. So that's another. I gotta make sure it's the same person. It might not be. That's why I'm not like totally vetoing this person.
Could be. It would probably be I mean, the source. He would have a source for that, I guess.
Well,
would he have heard of that? I doubt he would have heard that at the event when it was shown. Maybe
we'll get to that stuff. Anyway, yeah, like I don't know about a Switch 2 Direct on the 5th after the reveal, but also like there's got to be like a big presentation on Switch 2 after the reveal. Like we need, we can't just get by with just a 3-minute trailer. There's got to be something more significant, like a whole-on direct or presentation, relatively soon after the reveal. If it's not one and the same, it might be all in one shot. We'll see. And then on top of that, I still think there's got to be like a partner direct for Switch 1 stuff.
Oh yeah.
And you brought up Legends ZA. There's probably going to also be a Pokemon Presents in February. So
almost
like
definitely,
we're due for several big presentations from Nintendo in just a couple short months. So yeah, things are going to pick up. Chrono Rig with another super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Chrono. Oh, and I will be basing my vacation days next year of the Switch reveal presentation and reservation date and release. LOL. I get a lot of vacation days.
That's nice.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
Those are going to be some good times. I remember when I got my Switch. It was it was a cool time.
Standing outside GameStop at midnight, waiting in line.
Yeah.
To pick up my pre-order. 2 of them.
I got a $20 GameStop eShop card. I'm gonna use that to pre-order my Switch 2. Save $20.
Man, walking out of the store day 1 with 2 Switches in hand is a great feeling.
Right?
It was nice.
And you had the Switch 2 this whole time. You just had to combine.
Yeah, with that combined power.
Who would have thought? Sam Talks Games. What's up, buddy? Been a member for 23 months. Says, Andres, call me crazy, but considering how similar this console will be, January reveal to March launch. The only wrinkle is Xenoblade X. I think there's another wrinkle. And it's so big of a wrinkle, it's almost like a giant, like, cracked crevice upon the land. And
Yes.
that is that I don't think you have that short of a reveal to release window for your next generation console. I get what you're saying, that it can be a shorter turnaround, and I agree. I think it is going to be a shorter turnaround.
Yeah.
But I don't think. I mean, actually, I agree that it could be a shorter turnaround, but it also might just be about the same.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's coming out in March. I just don't.
No. Not
And
at this point.
Xenoblade Chronicles X is good evidence to that, actually. I mean, it's just, why would you do, why would you have that short of a turnaround?
Yeah. Why? And if you are having, like, if it is
Like,
releasing
why
in
would you
March,
skip
why
the
wouldn't
Game
you have
Awards?
not
Why
have
would you skip
talked about
Tokyo
it?
Game Show? Like, yeah,
And we're about to get into like a bunch of leaks. It seems like accessory companies have just said, "Screw it, we're leaking everything."
I
So
have heard a
like,
theory that
why
maybe
wait?
Nintendo initially intended on revealing the console like this year, but
Mm,
maybe they pushed things back a little bit. So maybe at one point they were considering March, but then they pushed things back a little bit.
possible.
I mean, personally, Sam, I'm sticking by what we've discussed recently, right? There are 3 different sources on a Switch 2 release happening between the months of May and July. Nate the Hate has suggested chat. He doesn't want to put all his. He's not like hard suggesting it. He's saying that's what he's heard.
Right.
Chatter, right? So maybe he's not like going all in on it. But Samus Hunter has said May to June. And Nintendo, which is a news outlet, they said they heard from 6 different developer partners that the release is between June and July. So there's a little bit of like wiggle
Okay.
room there, right? Which is why I just kind of say blanket May to July. But what's more interesting, well, not more interesting, but it makes it increasingly more interesting, is that not only are we hearing from 3 different people about the release date, or sources about the release date, we've also heard about the reveal time, which several people have come out and said it's next month. Then Ten Talk said he heard next month.
Mm.
I believe was it Samus Hunter that came out and said they heard next month. Nintendo Prime came out and said they heard next month. Chris Dring has said that they heard chatter about next month. They're not making a report, but they've said
Okay.
they've heard chatter. And it's not the first time they've heard chatter about something and nothing materialized. So let's be clear on that. My point is, like, you know, if I have to pick between March release, where we don't really have any new current leaks, like, yeah, in the past, yes, but like recent stuff from people saying it's happening in March, we don't have any of that, right?
No.
And it's an unprecedented time. And we also have Xenoblade Chronicles X, but then we also have people suggesting a January reveal, people suggesting a May to July release, and like the things seem to be lining up for that. I'm gonna pick that as opposed to March, which just I wouldn't bank on that. I get that, like, there was a lot of people who said March a while back, and now some people
could have been March back then.
I think there probably is a good chance that maybe they were intending for March, because, like, yeah, that may have been the plan at one point, but I don't think that's the plan anymore.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. But let's kind of catch up to live chat here. I'm scrolling through. All right, I think the chat wasn't loading, but yeah. Demonic Brawler adds me, we still need a Switch 1 Direct, at least a mini Direct, to show us the Legends of the Wind Waker, Metroid Prime 2 and 3, Kirby Planet Robot, and Hi-Fi Rush. Like, there's a lot of stuff. That's
a lot of assumptions.
I don't know about Hi-Fi Rush. Well,
I feel like Hi-Fi Rush is a Switch 2 game.
Yeah, I will say that I do believe Metroid Prime 2, 3, and Kirby Planet Robot are coming to Nintendo Switch 1. The Wind Waker, maybe a little bit later. I'm not sure.
Yeah, who knows with Wind Waker. I do think all the games that Xbox ported to PlayStation that we didn't get on Switch, because we got Grounded and we got that 2D game, I forget the name of. But Xbox or PlayStation also got Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush. Both of those, I think, are just Switch 2 games, and that's the only reason Nintendo didn't get them at that time.
Yeah.
I think both of those would be pretty hard to port to Switch. Well, not impossible, but harder than it, just wait
Yeah.
to Switch to, I guess.
Yeah. We have another super chat from Ticker610. February 23rd investors meeting was the 7th. The Direct was the 8th. The February Direct could announce a shout out of Prime 2 and 3 and release date of Prime 4. Maybe. Yeah, that's possible. The thing is, I have my eyes peeled on Prime 4 because I think Prime 4 is going to be tied into the Switch 2 reveal.
Yeah.
We don't know that. None of that's confirmed, right? But
definitely not. There's definitely people who disagree with. I've seen several people on Twitter disagree recently.
Well, people are disagreeing on a lot of things.
Right. And that's my point is this is not like an assumed thing. But
Right.
we both think that is going to happen.
I think a lot.
I think, therefore, I am.
I am a little confused on how things are kind of like happen here because we supposedly got more Switch 1 games coming, and according to PH Brazil, there's going to be a Direct in February that I assume is about Switch 1. I assume it's a partner showcase, but there is supposedly we're getting Metroid Prime 2 and 3, we're getting Fire Emblem Remake and Kirby Planet Robobot. These are supposed to help fill up the first half Switch 1 lineup. When do they announce those games? When do they come out? That's very curious to me. But also, we're supposed to get a presents for Legends ZA. When is that coming out? That presentation is likely to be in February. And then there's also the Switch 2 reveal, which is supposedly happening in January. I know I just mentioned several people have said January. I will tell you that I'm not totally committed to a January Switch 2 reveal yet. My expectation is January or February.
My actually going to disagree with you. I think it's January or they're waiting all the way till March. Because I think February is going to be Switch 1 stuff either way.
I'd rather just have it happen in January. It makes all of our lives easier.
Yes, I do think January is the most likely because I don't think it's going to be February because they're going to have a lot of Switch 1 announcements to make that make sense for February specifically. And like, unless they're waiting all the way till March, it's going to be January.
Something I'll
That's
say.
That's just my thinking, though.
Right. No, I hear you. I'll say that it's possible that maybe they were planning an even later Switch 2 reveal, like for February, maybe March, right? Maybe, as you say, maybe March. But because of all the leaks that are happening right now, Nintendo is making an adjustment to their plan, and they're speeding up the reveal time.
I have heard this theory.
January. Something that I think is interesting, right, is that we're talking about all these Switch 2 leaks, right? Like, there's all these accessory leaks that are happening over the last couple of weeks. Then we had this apparent leak where someone was at an event where they actually have the Switch 2, and they've been leaking a whole bunch of things on Reddit, supposedly, right? I know there's reasons to be skeptical there, but supposedly. Then, literally a day later, we get people saying, hey, the reveal's happening in January. Like, multiple people have heard this now. So it's just the timing of it feels very coincidental, like almost like they're like kind of like signs that something internally has shifted or happened already. Maybe there was a physical event. Maybe they had an event where they invited people over sooner than expected because of the leaks, or maybe they're just two coincidences. It's hard to say for sure, right? But yeah, I think there's a possibility that
I do think inviting people to an event would definitely have been a coincidence. But as far as the January event being in January, if it is, that I think could be a response to leaks. Although I think it's just the most likely month. If it was going to be next year, I think January just makes the most sense out of the three options that we have. Unless they are just waiting all the way till March, but honestly, that's less likely to me than January. Ever since it wasn't like October, like by the time October was done, we didn't have it. I was like, oh, it's January then. Like that just makes the most sense to me, at least.
Could be.
Even without the leaks. But yeah, I mean, the leaks are only going to get worse. So.
Or better, depending on your perspective.
Well, yeah, better for us, I guess.
Maybe. So let's start diving into some of these leaks.
Cool.
Because we got a whole bunch.
Yeah, it's
been
crazy.
Leaky. It's crazy. Listen, I just have a whole bunch of things I've liked on Twitter. I'm just gonna bring them up because there's so much. It's hard. It's honestly hard to keep up with all of this.
Gotta call Mario. Get a plumber for these leaks.
Yeah. So here I am on Twitter. This is the next batch of leaks, and this is a very interesting one. I would say. Brandon, what do you see?
A Mario Kart steering wheel accessory.
What? Where does it say Mario Kart on here?
It doesn't. That's just my thinking is, yeah, you use these for Mario Kart. It's a Wii steering wheel accessory, okay? There.
Yeah. So
it's not Mario Kart specific.
It's not Mario Kart.
Maybe due to there being a Mario Kart near launch, though, who knows? Could be helpful.
Yeah. I want to believe that there's Mario Kart at launch. I so badly do. I also got to say that I think that this
suggests that a third-party manufacturer thinks there's going to be enough big racing games near launch to warrant selling an accessory.
Well, so. Firstly, Switch 2 is backwards compatible, so every racing game that's come out for Switch 1 already has that option. But I will also say not every racing game uses motion controls, right? So, like, if you're gonna have a wheel, presumably it's because you're gonna, kind of
play Mario Kart,
right? I think it's interesting to see that there. I don't know. I don't want to go full on that. Yep, Mario Kart's getting launched. Is Switch 2?
No, I'm not 100% confident on it either.
I'm not even sure it's coming out next year at this point.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm pretty confident it will be in the first year.
I think it'll be in the first fiscal year. Hear me out. Mario Kart launches, it comes out to close the fiscal year March 2026.
Okay.
A month before the new Mario movie. And also to cap off the Mario 40th anniversary celebrations. Reminder that the Mario 35th anniversary celebrations finished off early 2021, even though they started in 2020. Remember, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury came out February 2021. So Nintendo may have a big 40th anniversary plan, right? They need to have a big Mario game for the holidays, right? So if it's not 3D, it's either 3D Mario or Mario Kart for the holidays. Like, to me, that is a guaranteed lock. One of those two games is a holiday title. Now, what many people may assume is that another one would be a guaranteed lock as a launch title for Switch 2. And that's where I'm not so certain on that part. And I made this argument the other day. Even though Nintendo is getting a lot of units out as fast as possible, or they're trying to have as many Switch units available for launch as possible, right? Like, we've heard numbers like 6 to 8 million. Mario Kart and 3D Mario are the kind of games that can sell 10 million in a weekend, right? If there was enough units out there. They're both going to be evergreen, so I think they could still come out sooner and it would be fine. But it also might be worth Nintendo. It might be worth it for Nintendo to put something else in the beginning that perhaps could take better advantage of evergreen sales early on, while there aren't that many units out there. Appeal to certain parts of the audience, and then you save 3D Mario and Mario Kart for these two really big moments. One for the holidays and one leading up. One to kind of close out 40th anniversary celebrations right before the release of the Mario movie in April, and to close out the fiscal year March of 2026.
Right.
So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know what's actually happening. But yeah, I kind of personally, I just want Mario Kart to be a launch title. Though. I just want Mario Kart to be the launch title. I want Metroid Prime 4 to come out like a month later. It's like the perfect like 1-2 punch to start it off, and then 3D Mario is the ultimate Christmas game. It is the ultimate Christmas game. I'll play in October when it comes out, but you get what I mean. It's a really good holiday title. Anyway, yeah, this is the Switch 2 Joy-Con, and we got that. It's in a wheel. It gives me some optimism that maybe there is a Mario Kart game coming out soon. But I think this could just be there because there are going to be racing games, and that it's that simple. You don't seem to have anything else to add, so I'm gonna move on.
Not without going on too much of a tangent.
Okay. Here, Nintendo Prime has shared other accessories. I don't even know what this is, so I'm just gonna. It's like a really subtle case.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Here we can clearly see the record button, circle, C button. I mean, maybe we could have a conversation point on that. Like what is the C button for?
Right. I have seen your video. I did watch it, and I thought it was funny because I came to the same conclusion you did within the first 2 minutes of the video.
Okay.
Well before you stated it, I was like, oh man, great minds think alike, because you kept making the same points I was making in my head right after I made them.
Yeah.
I think it's a chat button. I don't think it's a connect button or a cast button. I don't think it's for dual screen gameplay. I think it is a chat button for voice and text chat. I think that's the most likely option. Pretty much for all the same points you made in the video. But if you guys, haven't seen the video, I don't think cast makes sense. I don't even think that's a good way to do dual screen gaming for 3DS and DS games, because the screen is too when you have a DS or a 3DS, you can see both screens at the same time, and the gameplay is meant for that. You're both supposed to be able to see both screens at the same time. You can't do that very easily with a Switch handheld and a TV, because you keep having to look up and down. It's the same problem people had with the Wii U gamepad when you try to do dual screen gaming on that.
It might even make more sense to just have an accessory where you can. It's almost like a control grip, but so the grip puts the Joy-Cons on the sides and the tablet in the middle.
Yeah,
vertically.
Yeah, just use Tate mode.
Yeah, that would.
I think that would work for handheld, and then just have both the screens. Most people's TVs are plenty big enough for both the screens to be in display at once.
Well, the only problem with that is you wouldn't be able to use the touchscreen on the bottom unless you use a pointer.
It's fair, but I imagine they would just use gyro pointer controls or something for that.
Yeah. But let's explain all the C's, right? What's funny is that I talk about 3 different C options, right? There's cast. I don't remember what the first one is. I keep trying to remember. I don't what do I even
connect? But I feel like this is the same thing. Basically, those would be the same function.
That's a 4th C, I would argue. So this pen doesn't work.
In my mind, cast and connect would just be 2 ways of saying the same thing, the same feature, naming the same feature.
It depends on how you choose to interpret connect, but I see what you're saying. Right. So cast. Chat's the one I believe it is, or I theorize it is, but there was a 4th one, and I don't remember. It was the first one I talked about in the video. Chalupa, thank you, 10,000 noodles.
Chalupa, yes.
What
Casual
was it?
button.
Casual button.
Yes.
It was capture.
Capture, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with your points on that too. But go ahead and state them.
Well, I mean, going back to the image I was sharing here, I think it kind of answers the question just by looking at it. So, assuming that this is real, right? We assume it is, but
I mean, yeah.
Well, the buttons at least, right? So when you look at these buttons here, right? This is a C button that we're speculating on, right? Excuse me. if this stood for capture, it would be so weird that they would decide to add capture, because capture what, like capture footage? Guess what? The Switch one already had a capture button. It was over
Yeah.
here. It was, I think it was even called the capture
Yeah,
button.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure it's called the capture button.
Right, except it doesn't use a C button. It uses a circle of like record, right? So if you press it, it captures a snapshot. If you hold it, it captures 30 seconds of footage. Now you might say, well, maybe they want to make it more in depth. They can. I brought up the example in my video, I believe, but like on PlayStation 5, there's also a capture button. When you press it, it gives you several different options. There's recording and taking snapshots. And so they could just do that, and you don't have to make it two different buttons when it was already just one beforehand. Why would you make, in terms of like design, that would just be less elegant. I don't think you do that.
And why would you put it on the opposite side, not just like underneath the other button?
Right. So I think we agree that it's not capture. So we agree on that. You talked a little bit about cast already, right? Yeah, like I just don't see, like, it might be a good way to get DS and 3DS things working, but as we just talked about, I think there's better ways to do it. I mean, another option, there could be a peripheral that pairs with your smartphone. This is actually something I was thinking about earlier. One of the things that I think makes my PS5 experience feel more next gen, this might seem kind of dumb, it's not the visuals, it's the integration with my smartphone. Like, I can take my PS5 controller on my smartphone, and as long as I'm connected to Wi-Fi, I can play any game on my PS5 anywhere, right? As long as I'm connected to Wi-Fi.
Right.
On my PlayStation app, whenever I take a snapshot or record gameplay, it goes straight to my PlayStation app, and I can upload that anywhere, right? I can start a party chat and talk to people from my PlayStation app with other people playing PlayStation. Like, these are interesting things. My point is I like the smartphone integration there. That's just another thing they can maybe look into for Switch 2, like some more smartphone integration in interesting ways like that. But going back to like the casting option, I think it would. Well, I know people like the idea of having dual screen gameplay. If you do this, you're not. The Switch is running on Switch 2 is running on battery power, right?
Yeah.
Its ability to like run at max settings is limited. It's the Switch and the Switch 2. We presume the Switch 2 runs in the same way from everything we've heard and seen. It needs to be docked to run at full settings, and so you're kind of limited to everything in battery power. So whatever sort of casting dual screen options you can sort of foresee, most Nintendo games or just third-party games games in general aren't going to be built around this technology. This would just be like a random little thing you could do. It might work for NSO. It might work for sharing like things you're watching or playing, I guess, but it wouldn't be the primary way to do things. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I'm skeptical that this is what they would do it for. It feels like there's other things that would make more sense than casting.
Yeah, and like, I mean, it really goes back to like all the same issues with like the Wii U. Like, if you're not gonna support a feature like that, why would they, especially one that's so tied to a big failure of yours, why would they try that again with like it's not going to get support, so why even do that? You're gonna, not even just the battery life for trying to run something on the TV from handheld, but then if you want to do like dual screen, then you have to run a separate view up to 1080p onto the handheld as well. Like, oof, that's gonna be expensive. It just, I don't think cast, like, outside of very few specific scenarios, which, as we mentioned, like with 3DS and DS, I actually think there's better ways of doing that would be more elegant and work better. There's not really any good use case for this that doesn't have downsides or a better way of doing it already.
Yeah. There is an option that I see that Joyce has presented that I actually agree with. So Joyce here says C button is the cat button. Press C button for cat to come sit on your lap.
Oh, wow. Cat just came sit on my lap. I must hit the C button.
That is probably the most likely thing it is. But, you know, let's play devil's advocate and consider other possibilities here. You and I agree it's probably chat. Yeah. But let's entertain the idea if meaning connect. And actually, before we even do that, because I've seen some people bring this up, some people are like, "Hey, why would the C button represent an English word?" I think it's a good question, but I have the answer for you because that's how
it has been the past.
It's always happened.
Yeah.
English is a language of business and commerce. Like it's what most people use to communicate worldwide in terms of communicating business wise, right? So there's that, and there's, as you brought up, Brandon, there's examples of the past. Look at the Super Famicom controller. So the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo controller, right? Not the Super Nintendo controller, the Super Famicom. Select and start are select and start in English.
X. Okay.
Also, yeah, L and R as well. Like that, it's left, right. Like this is
it's ABXY. I assume is also still there.
Yeah, this is just how it's been. So,
I mean, when the C stick was the camera stick on the GameCube, right?
That's interesting. That's an interesting thing you bring up there.
I mean, even on the N64, it was kind of the camera buttons. It just depended on the game you were playing. I believe C standard for camera in both situations, though.
Yeah. I think what's going on here? Demonic Brawlers put up a super chat. It's kind of relevant to what we're talking about right now. Thank you for the super chat. I think people are overthinking the C button. Remember, Nintendo's Japanese. Would all those things be relevant in Japan just because the C on the button doesn't mean its function starts with the C? Well, let's think about this for a moment. I would say, I think it would, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, new buttons typically have in the past. I mean, and for like the capture button, sure, it's not a C, but it's literally like a picture of something that is recognizable as like video recording.
So not every button on here is a letter, right? But I mean, the arrows are universal. Everyone understands that. But how about
it's either a letter or a symbol?
Can you guys read this from here? The SL and SR buttons. No,
they may be able to on a bigger screen. I can't on this one.
I don't even know how it's supposed to. I can't
tell if it's focusing or not.
Anyways, you know that these buttons are SL and SR, right? That's the main point. Side left, side right.
So, wow, I did not understand that until you literally. That never clicked with me that it's side left, side right.
Right.
That makes so much sense.
And then when the buttons have symbols, for the most part, I would say that the C button, the way it's positioned, there's meaning behind it because it's in the same form as the record button and the home button. Those are shapes that we commonly understand. So I do think the letter represents something, but I will also say, to your point, there is the possibility that it doesn't represent anything, right? And I brought this up in my video today. I mentioned it's like, hey, maybe it doesn't mean anything. I think it does mean something. I think it does pertain to an actual meaning of a word, but maybe you're right. It might not.
It's possible. I don't know why they would do that. Like, if it was a symbol, then I could. I feel like if it's not going to be a word, it would just be a symbol. Like the capture button is a symbol.
And actually, Brandon brought up a good point earlier with the C button, because the C buttons on the N64 typically were for camera controls, and for the GameCube was also for camera controls, like C for camera. But here, actually, other options.
C for camera this time.
C for camera. The secret Switch 2 camera, which we've seen no physical evidence for whatsoever.
Right. Maybe the only way I could see this being camera is if this is some kind of dedicated photo mode button that activates photo mode in games, but the fact they would have that as a button makes literally no sense.
Yeah, but there have been theories that because the Switch 2 has two USB-C ports, one at the bottom, at the top, there may be a camera peripheral you plug in at the top of the Switch 2, and so maybe the camera button works then.
Still don't know why there'd be a dedicated button.
Well, what if it's a camera that comes in the box, but it detaches? And so if that's the case, if it's a feature that they want available, like at the ready, maybe the button is a camera button. So you're not capturing in-game footage, you're capturing external footage. Why does that matter? Why is that a big deal for the console and the games? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I feel like Nintendo is definitely not going to do something that gimmicky with the Switch 2.
also, like, might as well just press the shoulder button at that point, right? Because that would feel more
Right.
like a camera than the C button.
I'm gonna be honest. I think the Switch 2 is going to be a kind of device that is very like priced close to the margins of what it actually costs to make. I think it's going to be like it is going to be a huge generational leap. It's going to be a pretty powerful console for a handheld. Like it's going to be expensive to make already. I don't think they're going to have some kind of crazy gimmick that comes with some external accessory. Like some people have been like, oh, maybe VR out of the box. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's just I think that the unit itself is going to already be so expensive that they're going like at $400, it's going to be making them not that much money per unit already. Like I don't think there's room for these crazy gimmicks out of the box, like as separate accessories included with the unit. I just don't see that happening. Plus, I don't see Nintendo going with a huge gimmick to try to sell the console. I think that's a terrible move. I think that's why the Wii U failed, because they leaned way too heavy onto a gimmick that didn't work. And they're just not going to do that again because there's no need to, because the gimmick of the Switch is that it's a hybrid handheld, that home console, and that's going to be even more so the case this time. That's going to be the gimmick, is that the console experience is going to be better than it ever has been, way better than the console experience on the Nintendo Switch, and it's going to actually be something that holds up on a 4K television.
You won't be able to believe your eyes.
Maybe not. I think that people are going to be wowed by how these games look on Switch 2, on their TVs, on their 4K TVs. Not that I'm saying every game's going to run at 4K, but I think games will look good on a 4K set, which is not the case for most Switch games.
Yeah. Coming back to the C button stuff, though, right? Because I also see Demonic Brother here added that I believe the C is as in A, B, C, X, Y, Z. So my only issue with that is that, again, the C button is not with the normal gameplay buttons.
This is not a gameplay button.
It's separate.
There's some kind of function of the unit.
Yeah. Exact. So I'm just going to share the image again because I think it kind of serves a point. As you said, like it's like a console operational button, right? Like the record capture button, it captures snapshots and records footage on a console level, right? The home button always takes you home. It gives you options to go into sleep or turn off the console. All these other buttons are for interacting in-game stuff, but these buttons down here are not about game interaction. I would assume the C button would also not be about game interaction.
No. Underneath the home button as something you're going to accidentally hit the home button constantly if you had to actually reach down for that.
Yeah. So I don't think it's it's a game interaction button. I think it's something that you use to do something on the actual system. And so we're running out of options here. Level. If it's not to cast, if it's not to capture, if it's not cat, even though it probably is cat.
Yeah. I mean, literally, when you read that out, a cat came inside of my lap. I think that's, divine sign.
That's probably what it is.
Gotta be.
But joking aside, let's entertain Connect for a moment. What else could Connect mean? Could it be connecting your Switch 2 to another Switch 2?
For what purpose?
Oh, here's an interesting thing. You know how, like, whenever you have to sync a controller, it's kind of, like, annoying?
Is it?
What if it's... I mean, for some people it is. Like, what if it's just, like, a more obvious, simplified way to connect other controllers?
But the Joy-Con, you literally just slide on the Switch, it instant connects to that Switch. So why would you need a button?
What about Pro controllers?
But this is on the Joy-Con. So it would be a function that would be needed and necessary enough for it to need its own button.
I see your point. I see your point there. Right.
It's already
could it perhaps be? connecting to the Nintendo Miiverse Switch to social media app.
That is not necessarily out of the question. It could be like a social button. I could see that because that is
Okay.
very different from capture. It is a social button, which could also be part of chat as well. Like if it is a
Right.
social thing, like
Yeah.
that could be part of the chat functionality. It could be in there too.
Yeah,
So
like-
that's not
like
out of the
the-
question that Miiverse could be part of that button. If like
That
they
would
come up
be-
with another like Miiverse
Yeah, like
thing
the
or-
C button could just, you press that and it pulls up several options, like party chat, send a voice message, send a
Yeah.
text message, or get on the social media communal app, right? It could be the community button, or it's like
Yeah, community could be
community
it.
button kind of is all
Yeah,
encompassing
I like
of everything
that.
we just discussed. Yeah, community button. We figured it out. All right.
Cracking the code,
We'll
guys.
find out that we're wrong next month. But
Probably.
moving on.
Who knows?
Yeah. Demonic Brawler is right. It's just another button. It's just down there. That's it. It's just a C button. There's nothing at all about it that is, I mean, maybe, could be. Oscar T says my best guess is for party chat. Alex234 Connect should be so many things. It could be. It could engage the magnets, and the magnets start connecting everything. It just starts absorbing everything around you. Yeah.
And it transforms like a transformer with a built body.
Yeah.
You have a nice friend. Protector.
I see an interesting question here. Pokemon Fan 33 asks, "Hello, will you be at Too Many Games in June?" I've never planned on going to that event. I don't currently intend to, but this is December. That's June.
Yep.
We will see. I will say though that if Switch 2 is coming out May or June, I'm gonna be a very busy lad at that time. So, if
Right.
I'm gonna go to an event, I will announce it. The only event that I'm currently planning on going to right now is PAX East in May, but I don't want to say that I won't join any others. So we'll see what happens. It's the next 6 months might get wild. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Kitsune84 with another super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Wasn't there a leaker that said the C button was also on the controller? Was also on the on controller. I'm not
I assume they just
sure.
mean that there was a previous leaker who said there was going to be a C button on the controller. I don't know.
If anyone in the
there
chat wants
was.
to point something else out like that, there's nothing that's coming to mind to me. I'm not saying there wasn't.
No.
I'm just not sure.
It for some reason there's a vague light bulb that goes off in my head, but that could just-
Okay. This is very different. Kitsune has clarified. They meant Pro Controller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now
I mean, I assume it would be.
Yeah, like I'm still not sure if a leaker said that. They may have. I would assume that it would. Like I don't see why it wouldn't. The Pro Controller has all the same buttons as the Joy-Cons. I don't think that's gonna change.
I don't think this is a Joy-Con specific feature. Doesn't make too much sense. It could be, but
I mean, unless it has to do with the magnets.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a Joy-Con.
But we already have
feature,
magnet
but...
buttons on the back.
I don't. Yeah,
There's dedicated buttons for that.
I would say, even though I'm not sure about the leaker thing, I feel like it's a relatively safe assumption that the Pro Controller will also have the C button.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm 80%. I'm 80% sure that the Pro Controller
95%
will have the C button. Yeah.
Assuming that this, I mean, there's little doubt that these are based in some kind of truth. There's so many different sources of it.
These are real accessory companies that are.
Yeah, these are real companies.
These aren't fake accessory companies. They're all real, and they're saying it's Switch 2.
Yeah.
Like
so it's like, pretty much.
If you want to say one or
certain
two
they're
are
gonna
lying,
be on the
sure, but they're
Joy-Con,
coming
so-
in droves.
Yeah. So we pretty much confirmed that, this is going to be on the Joy-Con, right? So assuming that is the case, I'm like 99% certain it's going to be on the Pro Controller too. There's always room for doubt, but I would be shocked if there's any buttons on there other than the magnets buttons that aren't on the Pro controller.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Joy-Cons for Switch have a special feature, and that only they can do. I don't know what that would be. Maybe maybe they connect magnetically to the tablet vertically, but I do not think that would work. Like there's already an indentation for them on the sides. I don't think it would work the other way. But let's continue on with the leak. There's really a lot. It is a lot to kind of keep up with. But here's something that's actually very interesting. Let me see. Can I might have to pull this up on my phone.
Oh.
Hold on. The thing is, when I'm on my phone, it's easier to like translate text. It's not like from an image.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, hold on. I'm going to pull up the translation. I'm going to show you the image, but there's not really much to... it's not even worth it. It's just it's from a company. Hold on. Brain, come on. So, Legacy... Basically, what's being said right now. I'm pulling up the translation now. Come on, phone. Give me a moment.
It's not good.
No, it's not. It's terrible. I'm taking too long to translate this. I mean, I could just tell you what it means, but I wanted to actually get the translation.
Right.
Okay. So this is in French, right? Hello. Small indiscretion obtained from a seller. Micromania salespeople. Nintendo. This is not a perfect translation. Nintendo apparently does not have the right to take leave between March and May 2025. This may confirm the exit window of the Switch 2 more than waiting. Okay, it's not a perfect translation, but basically, Nintendo employees apparently from March to May 2025 will not be able to go on vacation. So this is actually something that happens with a lot of different companies during certain periods of the year where it's like a blackout period where no one can schedule vacation. It's like a really big period. And so it looks like the sales team cannot schedule vacation between March and May. Why would that be? What sort of event could be so substantial that they would not be able to schedule vacation for 2 months? The launch of the Switch 2.
Right.
That's it. The launch of their next generation console, the most important event in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
For Nintendo. So that's interesting. Now, does that mean the console's coming out in March? I don't think so. I think it's coming out May, but there's going to be a marketing blitz from March to May. That's how I would personally interpret that. But I don't know what you might make of that, Brandon.
I mean,
I guess it go. I don't know. Maybe it could go either way.
Yeah, I don't really know. What is like? I'm not sure exactly what a sales team even does, so it's hard for me to say. Like
marketing,
Yeah.
And, think about how many events. Like it's not just commercials and branding and social media posts. But there's gonna be a lot of like live events, hands-on impressions. Maybe some of what we'll be kind of dealing with in May, right? Like at PAX East, right? There may be a hands-on event at Nintendo World Store. Like there's so many different elements to this.
Yeah. I don't.
So...
It's also it's a wide area. So it's like hard to say like if it means like a release for then or just a build up to the release. But yeah, as I said, like I don't know specifically what they do, so it's hard to say. I could see, because even if there's a reveal in January, depending on when the device is launching, that may not be when the pre-orders go up. Like pre-orders didn't go up after we saw the Switch 1 initially until the second time we saw it. Um, so maybe pre-orders go up in March, and that's when like the big marketing starts after pre-orders start with a big second direct in March, or a second showing of Switch 2 in March. I could see that. And maybe that leads up to, you said it was, what was the time period again for the blackout exactly?
March to May.
March to May. Okay, that's what I thought. So yeah, starting in March makes sense if there's going to be like pre-orders going up then, and maybe it ends in May because that's when the console is launching at the end of May, or maybe early June. I could see that.
I just think there's gonna be a big marketing blitz. There's gonna be a lot of different events and things to attend to during this window of time. Maybe the Switch 2 could still launch in June, with this information in mind. But to me, it basically just suggests like May or June. Like I think it's more evidence, not proof, but evidence to support the reports we've already heard about a May to July release window.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
yeah. Very, and again, the extra interesting thing about this, right, is that we could say, because in the past we've had reports about a Switch 2 launch window, right? We've had them multiple times before, and when it hasn't happened, some people want to say, "Oh, those reports are false," but there's also the caveat to, well, Nintendo just changed their plans, right? And so there's like this back and forth, there's this debate about how legitimate the reports have been in the past. Right. But what's interesting about what we're hearing here, right, according to Micromania, this is about the sales team not being able to do anything March to May. Like, this is locked in, right? This isn't. Yeah. This is a little bit different. This is suggesting that Nintendo already knows when the console's coming out. We're past the point of, oh, might it be delayed again, pushed back? Doesn't look like it, assuming everything here that we're hearing from Micromania is to be believed.
Keep in mind, like, the Switch 1 was also delayed. The only difference between that and, like, say, the Switch 2 delay from this year to next year would be that we knew about the initial plan for a 2016 launch. But the only reason we knew about that
from the Giga leak got confirmed.
Well, no, I'm talking about official information. Like, we knew it was supposed to come out in 2016. Like, they planned it, and then they delayed it.
They wanted to.
Yeah.
They wanted to.
So we knew that officially, but the only reason we knew that was because, like, the Wii U was dead. So Nintendo was giving us information on the NX, like, super far ahead of time. They were just like, guys, don't worry. The NX, it's coming. You don't have to worry about the Wii U anymore. This time they've been very, very hidden with the information.
Very.
But yeah, I mean, the same thing happened last time where it got delayed. Maybe this time it's a few more months later, of a delay this time. But really, it's a very similar situation because holiday 2016, we know that for a fact that was the initial release plan for Switch, and indeed for Breath of the Wild too. So yeah.
I see here in the chat, who was it that was asking? The chat moves and I'm lost. Pokemon fan 33 said, didn't Nate the Hate say May? So Nate the Hate in a recent podcast did say that they heard about an event in May for the Switch 2. Now, they speculated that it might be a presentation or a hands-on event. I think of the consoles launching in either May or June, then I would venture to guess that is a hands-on event. That's what I think. I mean, maybe it is a presentation. Maybe there still is a Switch 2 presentation in May, and there are also hands-on events during this period of time. But I think what's going to happen is that you're going to see Nintendo's gonna want people to play this. Nintendo's gonna want people
Yeah.
to try out this console before release. There's going to be events
Oh, yeah.
like this.
Same thing happens with Switch 1.
And it's not just going to be all for press. There's going to be opportunities for just a general public to get a chance. Probably not going to be easy to get your chance, but it will be possible.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be shocked if like the Switch 2 isn't at like PAX East or assuming that it's been revealed. Well, it would have to have been revealed by them, right? So I assume it will be there.
I would hope so. I would hope so, Brandon.
I'd be shocked. I feel like the Switch definitely would have been there if it had. I believe the Switch actually was there, in 2017, but it had already been released, obviously. But even if it hadn't, I would imagine it would have been there if it hadn't been released. Either way, though, there's definitely going to be.
Definitely gonna be what?
I think there will be the reveal in January with another presentation after March or May.
I mean, also let's remind yourselves that once the Switch 2 is revealed, guess what else there can be? Just Nintendo Directs about Switch 2, because that is the new console now. Like, there's gonna be multiple presentations about Switch 2 all throughout next year. I predict at least 3.
Yeah, I think at least. Yeah, 3. I mean, I've been thinking January reveal, with a March or April Direct for Switch 2, like a big presentation. I imagine. I don't think at the reveal event that the Switch 2 will be pre-orderable afterwards. This time, like I think there's going to be a second showing again, where there will be pre-orders, because I think they're going to have to show it off again very soon after the reveal to show off like more in depth on games and the console. Like, I don't think the reveal is going to be a big like 30-minute to an hour presentation where they cover everything.
It's going to be a 6-hour presentation on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, 30 minutes on 3D Mario, 20 minutes on Mario Kart, and 5 seconds on the Switch 2.
That'd be epic. But no, I think at best we can hope for like a 10, maybe 15-minute, maybe reveal event.
Do you remember?
I think that would be a stretch.
E3 2016 when they finally showed Breath of the Wild.
Yes, I was actually thinking the exact same thing when you said 6 hours of Metroid Prime 4. I was like, yeah, they gave us what, like 10 hours of Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, we just watched Breath of the Wild footage all day. Like, I had snacks and I was eating food. And I was just like,
I had
on my computer watching Breath of the Wild all day. It was the best.
That was the glory
and it was all just for the Great Plateau. That was the crazy part.
Yeah.
Right. It's crazy. And when we played it, it still felt fresh and new. Like, it was so cool. Anyway, we got more leaks to discuss, my friends. This is crazy stuff. Shout outs to Cabby for sharing all this stuff on Twitter, so it's all readily available for me. This is from a Reset Era, right? So here Chris String said, I mean, it's chatter. I want to stress it's chatter before Nintendo everything, whatever it's called, starts reporting my comments. That was some shade thrown towards Nintendo everything, but okay. As fact, it's just chatter from other people they think. I'm told, and may even be right when the new year starts, which is great for someone who may have just left their job in media. We might be getting a sort of Switch reveal or at least something. Okay. So Chris String is suggesting chatter. Nintendo Talk, friend of the channel, source. Nintendo to reveal Nintendo Switch 2 in January. This is coming from a major third-party developer contact I have. Here's what they say about the console. Get ready to play modern AAA offerings on your Nintendo system in 2025. This is honestly not the first time we've heard from inside sources that there's going to be a lot of AAA offerings on Switch 2. But it's nice to hear it from another one, especially someone who I actually have a relationship. Like I'm friends with this person, right? Like I talk to them, right? So like that's good to hear.
You Nintendo talk to them.
Okay. January.
Did you like that pun?
No.
Okay.
It's fine. But January, right? Another person we know pretty well, Nintendo Prime. I am not. He actually reposted Nintendo Talks tweet, right, and said, "I am not sure how much longer I can contain my." Was this? I think this is a different thing. Anyways, he corroborated Nintendo Talks thing. I'm just. I didn't know. I thought this. I assumed it was the same image. But what does he even say here? I'm not sure how much longer I can contain my hype for Nintendo Switch 2 based on literally everything I am hearing that I can't say here or in videos. Good news is it sounds like I won't be waiting much longer. Earlier, he actually corroborated Nintendo Talks post about a January reveal and a whole bunch of crazy third parties coming. Samus Hunter. It's so interesting. Every time I talk about Samus Hunter, there's always a new audience, and sometimes people get upset at me for like summarizing different things. And then when they don't do it, people are like, "Oh, well, see, this person's full of garbage." I'm like, "Oh God," because it didn't summarize it this time. There's always someone in the chat that's like, see, full of shit." Except Samus Hunter literally teased Xenoblade Chronicles X before anyone else, right before it was announced. Literally teased the Donkey Kong Direct. No one else did. Right before it was revealed. Literally teased. What was the third thing? Emil the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club, when no one else was doing it right before it was revealed. And this person has been corroborated by Pioro in the past, for example. So, like, I know Samus Hunter has a shaky past. We go a few years back. It felt like a shotgun approach. They were saying a whole bunch of things. There were things that were right. There were also things that were wrong. And so that's why we shy away from talking about them. But in this year of 2024, there are 3 things they've gone spot on. They clearly talked about it right before they were announced. They were right.
Yeah.
Now, since they've talked about a variety of other things, and those things have all yet to have been confirmed. So, yes, you take this with a grain of salt, like everything else. But the notion that this person has not been getting things right and has not shown that they seem to have at least known some things, well, I mean, that part is this year has been good. Anyway,
it does seem like at the very least they seem to be more careful about which sources they take seriously and when they share information.
Yes, I think they cleaned up their act, and yeah, they're much better with their sources now.
Doesn't mean they're 100% right. But,
does not mean you're correct. That is a good point. So what that means is, even if they get one thing wrong, we don't all of a sudden assume, okay, that's it. They're full of it. Because guess what? There's literally no one out there that's ever been 100% right. Literally no one. You have to take these things with a grain of salt regardless. But last 3 big Nintendo announcements, they were there. They told us about it before anyone else. Anyway, Nintendo may advance the next generation Switch reveal with an announcement that possibly could come before Donkey Kong. In other words, before January 16th. That lines with what Chris String just said. This is to address recent leaks, especially of accessories, to ensure official news for the public. The remaining announcements of Switch games may come a little bit later. And when, in terms of, we mentioned this earlier, right? Like Kirby Planet Robot, Metroid Prime 2 and 3, Fire Emblem Remake. Supposedly these games are also coming to Switch 1.
Right.
We've heard about a direct happening in February. If the Switch reveals in January, maybe the direct for Switch 1 is in February, and maybe a bigger presentation for Switch 2 happens even later than that. But at least getting that initial reveal out there in January might make a lot of sense. And
this
actually,
post specifically lines up so well with what I've been thinking in general.
Here's
Switch
else
reveal January, Switch 1. It's more stuff in February, and probably in March, another Switch 2 presentation. Pre-orders go up.
I mean, I think it kind of makes sense to do the Switch 2 stuff in January. Let Donkey Kong just, disappear into obscurity.
I mean, Donkey Kong is never going to be like something huge.
No, I think I'm going to buy it, actually. But anyway.
I'll probably buy it. I love Tropical Freeze, and there's nothing terrible about this port.
I actually had Country Returns on Nintendo Wii. I loved it. I would love to play this with my brother co-op. It's such a good game. One of the better co-op games, but it's very hard. But I kind of, Brandon, I like the suggestion of this as well. Switch reveal in January, partner showcase, or maybe just a Nintendo Direct for Switch 1, Nintendo Direct Mini, however they choose to brand it, but a Direct or a series of Switch 1 first-party Nintendo announcements in February.
Right. We know we're getting that Pokemon Direct.
We're getting that Pokemon one, right? And then in March, maybe there's a bigger Switch 2 presentation. And what's interesting about that, remember how we were just talking about how supposedly the Nintendo sales team between March and May will have to be locked in. If the presentation happens in March, that could really kick things off, leading to a launch maybe May or June.
Especially if pre-orders go up in that March time, because they did wait again last time till 2 months before the console came out to put up pre-orders. I would imagine similar timing would be here between the pre-orders going live and the console actually launching. So March for when the pre-orders start, and then the sales team all of a sudden can't leave. Seems like that could be connected.
Now there's something else I want to speak on. Typically we have a big June direct. If the console launches in June, I could see them not having a June direct and pushing it to July.
Yeah.
But also, I'd be completely okay with them having the console released in May and still us getting the June direct.
Yeah, I think this does kind of more support May, especially if they're going with the same pre-order time, and it does happen to be March, March, and then April, then May would be when it would release.
Yeah, maybe they were maybe like if the reveal date's moved up, that also means the release date is moved up. I don't know.
May did work out well for Tears of the Kingdom, so they know that they can release something in May and keep it, get it to sell.
Actually,
you just keep, have a presentation in June as well to keep the hype going.
Something occurs to me. Maybe it does make more sense for the console to come out in May. One, to your point about Tears of the Kingdom, like that was a big seller, but also two, even if Nintendo decides to not have their event in June, there's still going to be a lot of announcements happening in June.
Yeah.
You may want to reveal the console before that. Well, not reveal it, release the console in May.
Right.
And then in June, you could just let third parties market your console for you. Right? Like, because there's going to be a whole bunch of Switch 2 games announced. Nintendo could still have their own presentation in July, by the way. Like, they could still wait.
And if they do release it in June, I mean, they don't have other consoles releasing around that time to compete with, obviously. But there is kind of like the market share, the mind share is they're competing for, because they have all these big announcements from Sony and Microsoft. So people are kind of thinking about them a lot as well, and not just Nintendo. Whereas if they do release in May, it's just kind of like nothing there to compete with mind share wise. I feel like that does make a bit more sense to not have the reveal or the release be happening right alongside these like major hype presentations for other companies at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, Nintendo skipped the Game Awards. Yeah. I don't know if that's because they're scared of like competing with others, but
no.
I think Nintendo just likes to do things at their own pace. So, we shouldn't assume a June direct, especially in a Switch 2 launch year where things are definitely going to be out of the ordinary.
Also, a June release, not only in the mindshare, but the press as well, are going to be conflicted. Like, when do we talk about, like, Switch 2 launch or all these
You do want there to be a lot of marketing for, yeah. I guess Switch 2 is coming out in 2026. Yeah.
I'm feeling May. I feel like May is, lining up to be a good option. I'm not 100%, but the more we talk about it, the more these leaks, I think a January reveal, March presentation, pre-orders go up, release in May. I'm seeing it. The stars are aligning for me. I don't know about you.
Counterpoint, Brandon, because remember I said the window May to July. What if it's actually July after all this other stuff gets talked about?
Could be.
Except there's a problem with that too, though, because if we're in June and there's all these other things being talked about, it's in that month right before the console Switch 2 comes out, which could take away a little bit from it. Now, if you also fuel it if those games are coming to the console, so it goes both ways. But I do think May makes more sense, though. Like, just kind of think like from this perspective. Does Nintendo have other reasons to maybe not do that? I'm sure. But from what we understand, from what we see, if we're talking about what month makes sense out of the supposed window of May to July, I will say May. But I will also admit I am biased because the sooner the better. But I feel like we've been pretty reasonable here with our logic, though. Like, there's going to be so many other games being talked about in June. I think getting the release out before that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to point out another message here. Ray Spence been a member for 13 months, lurking in the stream. That's going to be a busy week coming up. Happy holidays, everyone. 2025 is going to kick butt.
Yes.
Thank you for lurking. Thank you for the message. I agree. 2025 is going to do a lot of butt kicking, and these are busy times coming up for sure.
Oh yeah.
Now, let's talk about this other leak here. This is the one where supposedly the person had like everything. Like they went to a supposed event of Switch 2, and they took pictures of the console and shared it privately for proof to stay on Reddit and not get banned, and they answered a whole bunch of questions about it. And so here we have a summary of some of these questions and answers, right? This is another thing shared by Cabby. So here, question: is it really called Switch 2? Answer: yes, it is officially called Switch 2. How do you feel about that, Brandon? How do you feel about the console being called Switch 2?
If it's not called Switch 2 at this point, from everything we've heard, I would be mind blown. I have a 99% confidence at this point that this thing is called Switch 2. And honestly, I didn't even need this leak to feel that way. So,
okay. I'm putting up a new poll. Would you be happy with the name Switch 2?
I mean, from everything we've heard about it, unless there is some kind of hidden gimmick that is, warrants it being named after, I don't see any reason for them not to just call it Switch 2, because that's exactly what it is. It's just another Switch, but better.
Yeah. So I ended the poll from earlier, by the way. I had asked, what is better for Nintendo to do? Switch 2 commercial at Super Bowl, big game trailer at Game Awards. So it appears out of the 225 votes, 79% said Switch 2 commercial at Super Bowl. And the smaller number was big game trailer at the Game Awards. So here's hoping we actually get a Switch 2 commercial at the Super Bowl and not nothing.
Fingers crossed, I guess.
Yeah. Interestingly, we're 27 votes into the new poll, and 90% are saying yes, they would be happy with the name Switch 2.
Okay.
Listen, I think that you want the marketing clear. We don't want a Wii U situation again. You go with a number. It's the easiest and most clear-cut way to establish that this is a next-generation console. Right. Anything else would be an uphill battle.
Yeah, and literally the only reason the Xbox doesn't do the same thing is because if they went by number generations, they'd be one behind Sony. So if it's like the PS5 versus the Xbox 4, people are going to assume that the Xbox 4 is worse. So they don't do that. It's literally the only reason. Yeah. That's just the way that the things are going, and I wouldn't be surprised Nintendo's like, yeah, we aren't directly competing with them, so we can call it Switch 2, and it's fine. Nobody's going to think it's worse than the PS5 for that reason. Yeah, I mean, they're not competing directly. They already know it's not going to be as powerful as the PS5.
To me, that kind of felt like not the best reason. But it feels like because there's a bigger number gap that it's even if there was ever any real meaning behind that decision, there's less so in this case, especially because of the brand power of Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, they're not directly like Xbox and PlayStation are trying to do, or were this generation, maybe not next generation, but so far they've been competing for the exact same audience, the exact same types of boxes. Literally, the hardware is so close, games run within 1 to 2 frames of each other. They almost perform exactly the same, like they're based on the exact same hardware. they're basically the same thing. So they can't really do that. But
Except
Nintendo
now
is completely
Microsoft is
different.
differentiating themselves a little bit with Game
Yeah.
Pass and stuff, but that also means third party. But anyway, continuing on, what does the logo look like? A giant 2 next to the original logo.
Unsurprising.
Nothing too crazy there. Rumors where the system just started production. Is this true? Answer, oh, it's further ahead than that.
That
So
seems
supposedly
default.
this person was at an event where they actually were holding a physical final retail version of Switch 2. Like, in other words, when this console comes out, what we'll be able to hold and play with is what this person supposedly was holding and playing with. How do you know it's a final retail model? Answer, it is the final retail model. So this person was at an event, right? So it's not just that they had the console and they figured some things out. They were told things at this event. Why can't you post proof until Christmas? Answer, revealing proof now would make it too obvious who I am. So some people have wondered why this makes any sense. I've seen some other things said. The idea would be is that Nintendo is slowly reaching out to more and more people over these days, revealing the console to a larger and larger group of people. And so the longer they wait, the larger that group of people is. And so, you know, it would be a little bit harder to pinpoint who is leaking this if they were to show what they got. Supposedly, right? That's the logic behind it.
It is strange logic, and maybe I'm not thinking of this correctly, but isn't them just saying that they were shown it at a thing, like, isn't that enough for Nintendo to already pretty much, like, why would the posting photos, like, unless they just, Nintendo can't do anything because they don't know for sure, but like,
maybe
they wouldn't they already be able to figure out who you are? And when you do post the proof, they can see when you post this initial post. So they would be able to go back and be like, okay, who have we shown it to them at that point? And still figure out the exact same information? Like, you would be able to track him down just as easily whether he shows it off or not. The only way you wouldn't is if he had never said anything until they showed it to more people. I would think, right? Because if you have any sort of... And Nintendo's legal team are skilled as hell. Like, I feel like they would just be able to figure it out anyways. Like, this doesn't help him in any way, unless I'm thinking of this wrong. Like, does that make sense to you? Like, I don't see how this helps him.
What you say is also came to mind to me as well, immediately. The only thing I'll say in defense of this person, not that I really feel like I need to defend this person, right? Like, I want it to be real, but also it doesn't matter. Like, most of these things we kind of believe already regardless, right? But
I was saying before, like, nothing they said is crazy.
There are some subtle things, though, that we'll get to. But I think supposedly from the pictures, right? Like, we'd have to see all the pictures to kind of have the full picture on why they wouldn't want to show some things. And maybe it's what's in the pictures that could be more telling of who they are based off timing, because a larger group of people later down the road. Supposedly, we'll see. I think you bring up a good point, and it is a reason. It is a reminder to take this with a grain of salt. Could be baloney, but supposedly the moderator saw all the pictures, not just one or two, and believed it was compelling evidence. So that's all we can say for now.
Okay.
Question: when will it be revealed? Answer: I've heard January, possibly during a Nintendo meeting, but that isn't confirmed. Okay, we've talked about that already. Question: what do you think the price will be? My best guess, $3.99 to $4.99. That's just their guess. They don't know. Question: do you know any launch titles? Answer: I don't know any launch titles, but there is a game theme switch of a game IP that hasn't had its own dedicated console yet. So what's interesting about this question is that there was something about a 9 brought up, which has led people to speculate, is there going to be a Mario Kart themed Nintendo Switch 2 for Mario Kart 9? But Samus Hunter has said that Mario Kart 9 is not going to be a launch title. Now, that doesn't mean Mario Kart can't be, still be planned a little bit later to get a special themed Switch 2, right? Also, like maybe whatchamacallit, like the it could come out a few months later. Like the
Yeah,
theme's
within
Switch
the
2 is not going
window.
to come out at launch anyways. So
Yeah, I would be surprised if there was a game theme specific Switch 2 at launch. That did not happen for Switch 1.
yeah,
Even though Breath of the Wild launched day and date, so there was no Breath of the Wild themed Switch.
no, there wasn't. Moving on though, question: can you confirm storage space if screen is OLED or LCD? Answer: LCD. I can't confirm the storage space as I didn't get to turn it on. You know, it's funny because we've kind of known it's going to be LCD for a long time, but now that more people are hearing about it, they're like, there's like a lot of complaints, and I just want to say that like there's quite a spectrum of like LCD quality.
Yeah,
so
we don't
until
know
we
how
see
good
it in
this one's gonna
action,
be.
exactly, I
Could be a
wouldn't doom and
mini
gloom.
LED LCD for all we know.
Well, that's I think some people have speculated that actually.
That would be really good. That would be nearly as good as an OLED.
And here's the other thing: it's gonna be an 8-inch screen, 1080p.
Yeah,
those
and
are
if
things
it
we've also
is,
heard.
actually, if it's a mini LCD, it could get contrast similar to OLED, but get way brighter, so it works better outdoors. And that could be maybe why they do LCD over OLED. Because I don't think mini LED would be much less expensive than an OLED. I mean, actually, it would be. Depending on the type of OLED display, it could be less expensive or more expensive. I don't think that it's going to be like wildly different pricing though. But it could have much better outdoor performance, getting much brighter because OLEDs typically do not get nearly as bright as LCDs. LCDs can get much, much brighter.
Yeah, because I'm definitely going to be playing my Switch 2 in that sandbox.
Yeah. Outside on a park bench or something, you know, like in the original Switch trailer.
When I'm walking my dog, or in this case, my
Yeah.
cat. Yeah. No, I mean, my
if it's a nice LCD, it could actually have benefits over LED or OLED. I mean,
I will say that it might be nice to take a really wonderful vacation in the summer. You know, once Switch 2 has come out, things have gone so well. Take like a week break and I'll just have my Switch 2, enjoying myself. Might be nice. Yeah. So continuing here, question: did you see a camera on it? Answer: there was no camera on it, but for some reason that guy did suggest a top USB-C could be used for it, but I don't think there's any proof. We've heard that before. Moving on. Question: how many USB ports are located on the dock? I was disappointed. It's literally the same. 2 USB ports on the side, USB-C, HDMI, and Ethernet inside. We've seen all this from everything else. Nothing here is too surprising, but I do think having well, this is just about the dock, right? It's not talking about the USB-C ports. I was thinking about the USB-C ports, but yeah, that's having an Ethernet inside is big. The
I
OLED
would
dock
imagine
has
it
that.
would. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna regress.
Yeah,
like back to less.
yeah, but
less
the
features
OG dock doesn't have it, so that's just why I'm bringing it up.
Right.
Question: does the system include a mic? Answer: I personally did not notice a mic. Actually, sorry, I'll look for it next time. So, actually,
I mean, yeah, that's very easily something he could have missed.
It's like
on the outside of the unit.
So there is something.
If he never actually got to turn it on and use it, it would be hard to tell it's a mic.
That we have seen from the Switch 2 leaks that suggests there might be a mic.
Right.
Let me show you guys here real quick.
That is something that would be very obvious or very easily to miss if you're not powering on and using the console because it's just like a tiny little hole.
So that's the thing. It is from what we're
not even sure it's a mic.
There's this thing. So if you look at this hole right here, people are speculating that this is a Switch 2 microphone.
Right.
Now, my only hesitation in believing that this is a microphone is that this would be the top right side of the console. I don't know how the microphone would work. I feel like in general, microphone should be like facing you. This wouldn't be facing you, so that's why I feel a little weird about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I will also say though that there is still an audio jack, so if they just have the audio jack support like voice chat with a headset, I think it's fine. So
Bluetooth headset support likely will be fine.
hopefully Bluetooth
Yeah.
headset support that doesn't lag.
I don't, the PS5 is a pretty good built-in mic on the controller.
Yeah, even the
So,
PS4 one did. So
yeah, I don't know how that one faces relative to. I assume it's on the front of the controller.
oh wait, I thought you were talking about the audio jack thing. You mean like just like the you just talk to it.
Yeah, because the
Um,
PS5 is a built-in mic. I don't know
let me
where
let
on the
me let
controller
me
it is
grab
though.
it real quick. Let me take a look.
N64 4K.
So okay, this is interesting actually. It's a little dusty. I don't know. All right, so I don't know how well you can see this.
Should probably go to the other view.
Oh, good point. Good point, Brandon. Good point. All right. So you see, yeah, you can see on camera.
Oh yeah,
Right
it's
there,
like on
that
the
white stuff
bottom.
is a microphone symbol, and there's like a small like oval hole right there. Honestly, it made me a little bit hard to make out there, but it looks very much like that oval
Yeah,
symbol for the Switch 2
and that is
in the
not
image.
directly facing you, and it does work pretty well.
Well, I mean, it's right there. But
It's still a
I will
glancing
also
angle
say
though.
though, I've kind of held it like that, like it's almost kind of more like a kind of absorbs the audio in the area sort of thing.
Right.
So it works pretty well. Like I've had like
Yeah.
basically phone calls on this.
We've
It's pretty good.
we've done voice chat over it before. That's why
Yeah.
I knew it worked well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're definitely not facing that directly head on all the time when you're holding a controller.
No, like especially because I'm usually on the couch, right? So I'll be laying on the couch. The couch is like sideways. The TV. I'm like this, right? I might be talking like that. So that's a good point. Now I usually just use a headset if I'm using that, but to talk chat with people. But it does work.
Yeah.
And not poorly.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. Was there
And also
anything
just
else?
the microphone I'm using right now, I'm not talking directly into. It's below me. It's not directly. I'm not talking directly into it at all. Not even close.
Yeah. So I mean, the microphone could be there. Seems a little odd, but if it works, it works.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm not too worried about it either way, but it may be there.
But as far as the veracity,
it would
or
fuel our
this leak.
community theory button theories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would I could see it happening. I think it's a feature that's nice to have like on the PlayStation as well, because not everybody has a Bluetooth or just a headset in general. So it is nice to be able to do voice chat with just the controller.
Yeah, I hear you there.
I assume that means that the Pro controller will probably have a mic as well.
I hope so. I hope it's basically this. Because this works really well.
I do like the PS5 controller a lot.
Yeah, there's something I want to talk about the controllers in a moment, but I want to read the rest of this leak here. Cool. There's not that much left. There's the thing is, there's really like so much it's kind of hard to keep up with it all, right? Like I'm reading like a summary here on Twitter, but there's like I don't know if you guys have read through like an old Reddit thread, but it's really I have to use Control F, and the thing is Control F only works on things that are visible. You have to load more comments to catch more things. So there's like thousands upon thousands of messages to sift through. It's intense. But anyways, how many? Okay, what we read that. We read that. How heavy is it? Is it still usable in handheld mode? Answer: it's much lighter than a Steam Deck, but the same lightweight as a Switch OLED. I really like the sound of that. Like this thing is going to be huge, but it's going to feel as light as the prior Switch. And to me, that sounds like magic.
It makes sense. I think that it would be lighter than the Steam Deck, just because it has a lot of like extra functionality on it, and it's also from what we've seen, it is a little bit bigger. Like it's not like way bigger than what the Switch 2 is going to be, but it is like it is a hefty boy. It's a chunky boy. Same with a lot of like the modern Windows handhelds, like the ROG Ally X and stuff. It does seem like the Switch 2 is still going to be like smaller and lighter than those, which I think makes sense. Because I don't think that it's going to need like this like crazy cooling that these other units have, because like it's not going to be clocking up nearly as high as those unless it's in the dock. So configuration, which may have a fan, may not have a fan. We'll see. But either way, I don't expect it will clock up as high anyways as these. So yeah, I would expect it to be lighter and thinner. This makes sense. We already know it's going to be a bit smaller too, but you know the screen is going to be comparable still.
It's gonna be. I'm excited. But here's another question here. What does the dock look like? The dock has curved edges and back, and it doesn't cover the top of the screen. There are some images that have been like mock-ups of how this console's been kind of described, and I actually really like how it's been described. Here it is. Here, let me share this real quick. So here's how it's been described, right? So another part that was explained in the Reddit post, I'm not sure if it's in that Q&A, but it is explained. The tablet matches the color of the Joy-Cons. So in other words, there's different colored tablets now. And so there's supposedly going to be an all-white model like this. I'm buying, like, if both these are available at launch, I'm buying white. Like, this just looks, I want that white tablet. Like, that looks so good with the Joy-Cons.
I'll
but then
probably
there's
go
also
with the gray.
Yeah, I mean that's a good looking version too. It's I think I just like
I prefer to like darker colors typically. But I could see the white looking really good with some nice colored Joy-Cons on there.
Yeah. They got options. And then they show the docks here.
I'm more of a dark mode guy.
Based off how it's described. Like the way it's described, he goes into detail on the actual Reddit post, right? But it's described like it's more they leave a lot of screen space. It's a lot more than just a Switch 1. Like he talks about how like on the Switch 1, they leave a little bit of space to show if it's charging, but on the Switch 2, it's rounded out to show off a lot more. And so they might use that screen real estate to show off more things, which is why they're trying to sort of kind of, show that off here with these mock-ups.
Could be another reason why it's not OLED, because this kind of functionality with an OLED would be much, much worse for burn-in, because this is the exact kind of stuff you do not want to ever do on an OLED. Like this is specifically to like do not leave things on like the exact same thing on the screen over large periods of time, which this would basically do. Like this is a nightmare scenario for an OLED screen. So if this is something they're doing, that makes perfect sense that they're not doing an OLED on this model. Especially if they're going with something like mini LED instead, because that you can get similar look of an OLED and that kind of almost perfect blacks, the super good contrast, and then you don't get burn-in, and better outdoor performance. So
sounds like it's really the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about this is if that's the direction they're going in, then maybe there's never a switch to OLED.
Potentially. I mean, if they do a mini LED display, honestly, I don't think they ever need to do an OLED upgrade. There would be certain advantages, but there'd also be major disadvantages. Like I said before, like you're not going to get an OLED screen as bright. And this is a mini LED LCD. You're just not going to do that. It's not going to happen. So if it's just a normal LCD and it's not that great and it's just kind of bog standard, then yeah, sure, OLED model down the road. And maybe they just disable this feature on the OLED for some reason. Or maybe they have some kind of mitigation software specifically for the OLED version. Maybe they release
a dock with its own panel on it.
Maybe. They could just
actually, that could work.
They could. Maybe there's more movement on the OLED version of this so that it doesn't have a burn-in as much. Maybe that's something they do.
Maybe it's just a problem they'll figure out later.
Yeah. But if it is like a nice mini LED LCD, no, I don't think there's any reason for them to upgrade. Now, to be fair, there's no leaks or rumors suggesting that it's going to be mini LED. So it could just be a not that great LCD, and there's definitely reason to go for OLED then. But if it is like a nice LCD with mini LED backlight technology, like it's not going to be like a super big need for an OLED anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Now I want to continue reading these questions. There's actually 2 more pages, so I want to try and get through these a little quicker.
Cool.
So we'll talk about them, but I just want to kind of speed it up. Is there a click sound when attaching Joy-Cons like the original Switch? There's a physical magnetic click, but I don't know if there's a digital sound because the console was never on from what they explained, right? Question: are the buttons similar to the original Switch? The buttons and sticks are slightly bigger, but similar in feel. Now, something very interesting that I don't know if it's described in this Q&A, but it is asked in the Reddit post about it's at some point detailed about the color of the buttons, and the user says that there's no color to the buttons. So colored button theory, if this leak is real, has died, unless they're only saving it for special editions later down the road. Curious, but we'll see what happens there. Maybe that's why this leak is fake. Or maybe that's why this leak is real, because it's a common theory, but it's just a theory, right? And they're not, even though, and what's interesting is this person seems to have done their homework about, the bigger screen, the weight, all that stuff, because we already know about that stuff. Like, this person is shown to know about a lot of the things that have been leaked, so they have been doing their homework. But a common theory that a lot of people like to believe is the color theory, myself included, and that part's not in here, right? So I would, even though none of it's not proof by any stretch. I'm even hesitant to call it like evidence, but it's kind of like, okay, well, if this person was faking it, I feel like they probably would also mention color buttons, but they didn't.
Probably. That is a common theory. Personally, I haven't really been on the color button train for a long time.
They
at
could
this
just
point.
be a color button hater.
Yeah, I hate color buttons. No, I actually think the color buttons would be cool. I just think I'm not convinced that the color buttons in those games has anything to do with Switch 2 at this point.
Well, may not be.
I'm not convinced it doesn't. I don't have really.
We don't have substantial evidence.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Question: What's different visually compared to the original Switch? The main visual differences are on the back, a new Joy-Con release button, and U-shaped kickstand. We've seen these from the leaks already. There's nothing too crazy there. Right. It's crazy, but we do know about them. Is the main point. Question: what is the color of the console and Joy-Cons? Dark gray all around. That's the version you saw, but he was told about the other versions that he explains here. Will the system have multiple SKUs at launch with different console colors then? I don't know about at launch, except the gray ones are being sent first. Not sure if white will be at launch or later, or when the game-themed one will. Question: will we have color options then for the main Switch unit color as opposed to the original always being black? Answer: colorways to go across the whole console, not Joy-Cons. We discussed this point already. Last page here. What is USB-C for, and how do Joy-Cons feel? They feel the same as the Switch ones, but they are surprisingly Hall effect and slightly bigger. The reason why he's saying this, because you can't tell if it's Hall effect by feeling them. He was told this at the event.
Right.
Question: does it have new functionality besides hardware upgrades? Yes, there are new features, especially in the Joy-Cons, and I'm very curious about this. And there's something I'll talk about when we're done with this here. Question: did you have a cartridge? Will old Switch 1 cartridges fit? Answer: I didn't have a game cartridge, but it's the same physical slot as a previous Switch. I've heard that it won't physically fit into Switch 1, however. There's some talk how maybe the teeth of the cartridge will not allow Switch 2 cartridges to fit in Switch 1. Question: can you give details on the new Joy-Con features? Answer: the top side of the Joy-Con has a surprise feature, and the mags themselves are buttons. So when they say, initially when I read this, the top side of the Joy-Con has a surprise feature, and the mags themselves are buttons, I thought this is just one thing. When they say top side, they meant the side of the Joy-Con, which I feel like is a weird way to describe it. But maybe they're talking about two different things here. Maybe they're saying the top side as in where that C button is at, right? Because that is technically it's still. Maybe. And then
Yeah, because I can't imagine. Because when I think of topside, I think of where ZL and ZR is, but obviously, like that's just gonna be ZL and ZR. There's nowhere to put anything else there.
I don't know. Top side's
So
a
you have
weird.
to start thinking about it in different dimensions. But I do think like the top face kind of makes the most sense, which could be referring to the
I
C
just don't
button
know what
then.
top side means because it
Yeah,
entirely depends on your perspective. Like the thing is, if you look at sides as just like on the sides, right? You don't think about the top. But the fact they're saying top side, like I guess they just mean the side that's the top, right? Like if it's a square, right? The square still has sides on the top and bottom, right? Which
yeah,
would
but
then
from
mean
what position?
right, right, exactly. But we're looking at it face forward, where the Joy Cons are facing us. And to your point, like I don't know. That's weird.
If it
Um,
is something that goes into your hands, maybe it could be something like I don't know why you would do this, but like a heartbeat sensor or something.
maybe the vitality sensor returns.
Yes, the vitality
It's
sensor.
in the triggers, which supposedly are bigger than the triggers on Switch One. So that's interesting.
It does
That would
look
be
like
kind of
that
cool.
from all the
That's
photos we've
possible.
seen.
It
so
doesn't look like
far.
they're analog triggers, but they do look
No.
bigger.
Yeah, they look like longer, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and then supposedly the SL, and then they say and the mags themselves are buttons. Like the SL and SR buttons are the buttons. They're the
Yeah.
magnets. Yeah,
That
we
seems to be the
theorized
case.
that. Yeah,
I mean,
it
they
makes sense.
pop out so you can press them, but it also makes sense that they would then be the first thing to hit the
That's a
inside
good
of the
place to
Switch,
hide 'em.
right? So
Yeah.
for them to be magnets does make sense there.
Yeah. Question: I've heard about a gimmick with the top of the Joy-Con thumbsticks. Is this true? There's a special orientation you can use the Joy-Cons that's unlike before. Not sure if that's what this refers to. I am very curious on what they mean by special orientation. Like, what other orientations are there?
Yeah. Huh.
Maybe it's that DS 3DS mode we were speculating on.
Hmm.
Now, this question's weird. Question or answer. Does the dock have a fan? As we theorize that there might be a second fan in the dock, so it can go up to higher clock speeds. Answer. This is the right question. No, OP could be hinting at performance increase that requires fan. So, like, they didn't say yes, but they didn't say no.
Right.
They were just cryptic. So that is.
I could
is
see
crazy
a
stuff.
fan being in the dock. I think that would make sense. Honestly, I think a fan not being in the Switch 1 dock was kind of a miss. Because especially when for like the Switch OLED. The Switch OLED could have just been a Switch Pro if they wanted it to be. It just like it would probably need that extra cooling though. In fact, I'm pretty sure people who overclock it do have issues with cooling with the standard fan. But like, if there had been a fan in the Switch OLED dock and they let it clock up, like it would have it would have been like, pretty much a Switch Pro. You could have had like 60 FPS or Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. It would have been nice, but they don't. But this time, I assume that they want to get as much juice out of this as possible. They are going with more of a custom solution, not just something off of the shelf. I would like to see a fan in the dock, especially because it's going to be a much more powerful unit. That's not going to be that much bigger. So it's not like there's going to be that much room for a way bigger internal fan. And from what we've seen of different leaks and stuff, when we did see the internals, it didn't seem like there was going to be like this huge fan cooling it. So I wouldn't be too surprised if there was a fan in the dock, and that was necessary this time.
Right, we've seen evidence of an extra fan. Like, where is it? Right, it doesn't look like it's inside the Switch 2. So the tablet part, from what we've seen in the leaks. So maybe it's in the fan. I mean, maybe the fan's in the dock. It makes sense. Now, I'm going to. There's a few super chats here I want to get to, and then there's one more thing I want to talk about. Free Metroid hat. Been a member for 11 straight months. thank you for being a free Metroid head and being a member for 11 months. I appreciate you. Joycey J with the super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Joycey. Is it possible the leaks are BS? I find it odd there's no official name leak and no official colors leaked. Or am I being pessimistic? Well, there is no official name leak. It's the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm confused. Like, what do you mean? Brandon, did you understand the question better than me?
Not really.
I don't know, Joycey. Maybe you're being pessimistic. I mean, listen. I don't think all the Switch 2 leaks are true. Let's be real here. I don't think all of them are true. But fact of the matter is, we have dozens of accessory manufacturers from all around the world, not just China. We have all sorts of them that are recognized accessory manufacturers that are putting out official Nintendo Switch 2 accessories. Like, they are Nintendo Switch 2 accessories. There's no beating around the bush with some of these. They're all like unanimously the same. Like, so there's little doubt there.
Yeah, and they have been referring to them specifically, as you say, as Switch 2 accessories. Right. Like, they are saying the name is Switch 2. Now, maybe people don't understand that that's what's actually happening. But no, the manufacturers themselves say these are Switch 2 accessories. They don't just say they're a Switch next-gen accessory and we're calling it Switch 2. They said Switch 2.
Yeah. So those accessory makers are, like, those accessory leaks are real leaks. They are real leaks. How much can we take away from them? That's up for debate because a lot of this info has kind of been leaked already. It seems like it doesn't even confirm that the console's called Switch 2, but it supports the notion. This leak we just went through reading, that one is maybe not a leak. We don't know, right? We're kind of just taking we're basically going by the word of the moderator for the Reddit chat that says the evidence that they were showed was compelling.
Right.
I mentioned, because now the word's gone out there that some of the pictures that were supposedly shared, there apparently was a whole bunch of them, but I saw a couple myself personally, and from what I saw, it looks like a photo of a real dock, but those things are fakeable. Like, it would have to be a tremendous effort to do so, right? Like, this would have to be done by an expert, but it could be done. Right. So it looked potentially real. It didn't look obviously fake. So we'll see if that doesn't mean that what we just read is all real. But what's also interesting about this, though, is that there have been people who have said that this Reddit leak, even though we can't prove it's real or not, we don't have like a lot of evidence to suggest it's real outside of the word of the moderator, who doesn't even say it's real. They just say that it's compelling evidence.
Right.
A lot of people have come out and said that there are many elements to this leak that they've heard line up. So does that mean that it's true? Does that mean that it's just kind of basing it off everything else we've heard? You know, there's some room for interpretation there. We're not entirely sure. So take it with a grain of salt. But the accessory leaks are all legit. Yeah, that part is for sure legit. Everything else is up for debate. Boo Mini with the super chat here. Thank you for the super chat, Boo Mini. Remember code word ounce? Ounce, Oz, Wizard of Oz, Ruby Slippers, Ruby the cat, who has Nintendo connections and may star as a opponent in the live-action movie. Switch 2 will be called Switch Ruby. Let's go! My cat is a Switch 2.
Your cat is the Switch 2.
My cat is a Switch 2. She's it. She's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all cats are pretty great. So, yeah.
Yeah, cats are cool. They're cool creatures. So are
every
dogs.
time I see a cat, not to tangent here, but I do see a lot of cats and dogs when I'm out doing Uber Eats, and I do feel the want in the back of my mind to steal all of them. Like, I was doing a delivery, I was waiting for somebody to come to the door to give me a package, and their cat came up to me and was just like laying and let me scratch its belly, which like most cats don't do. And it was like the fluffiest, softest cat, and it didn't have a collar. I wasn't even sure if it was theirs. I was so close to taking that cat home.
I've thought about it. I saved a turtle once. I thought I was like, what
Hell
do I
yeah.
do with this turtle? I don't want it to die, but I'm also not going to keep a turtle. So,
True.
so
Turtles can be fun.
last topic. We'll read a couple chats after this last topic, and then we'll call it a night. It's getting late. It's actually been a long stream, so
Yeah, a lot to talk about.
Yep, we've got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about Metroid stuff, but you know what? We got next week for that. So,
Yep.
This pad's been around since 2022. Nash Weedle, we've talked about him before. Maybe has leaked some things, maybe has not. There's some debate there, but they put a leak, right? They like to. Sometimes they post on Twitter and they say it's like a leak express. And so the indication is that this is something that they've heard internally, right? Like, and that they're kind of putting it out there. And so back in 2022, they shared a Nintendo patent, and the Nintendo patent was for essentially control sticks that would use a magnetic fluid, a smart fluid, and so through magnetism, you can actually control resistance on the control sticks. So that, and then recently Mike Odyssey kind of brought the conversation back to the forefront because he saw it as well, and so now it's being talked about. And I remember making a Star Fox video a couple months back, and there's some people saying, hey, like I talked about the possibility of maneuvering around your R-wing, and as you pull back on the R-wing, you feel resistance on the control stick as if you're kind of flying like a plane, right? You know, if you were to pull back. And I thought it was a really good idea, but there were some people saying, oh, that's never been done before. That's not possible. But officially speaking, there is a Nintendo patent for that technology. Now, will they use that technology? That remains to be seen. Not all patents materialize into actual hardware or software.
Could be way too expensive to actually implement.
Maybe, but Nash Weedle did call it a leak express back in 2022, suggesting that it's something Nintendo will actually use. So we'll see. I think it'd be a fantastic, awesome feature that would make it would be so cool. Like there's so many different ways it could be used. Like if I used this example in my video a few days ago, but Link could be walking through snow, and as Link trudges through the snow, he'll feel that resistance, or through sand, you'll feel that resistance as you move through. You know, if you're getting attacked, you might feel vibration on the stick. You know, or like, you know, if there's a wind blowing, you might feel like the resistance there.
This could be cool for Mario Kart because you can have the feedback from the HD rumble giving you that like wheel to the ground feel, but the sticks give you that like hands to the steering wheel response.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah. There's a few different ways they could handle it. Like maybe the rumble could still do like create like that feeling of the sludge, but I think you brought up a really good point that it could be like more like wheel resistance. I really like that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Because you got the HD rumble and you got these triggers, so you can do both.
Yeah.
And you know, PlayStation has the resistive triggers, but you can't really do that on a non-analog trigger, so that's not something Nintendo would be able to do. But this would be able to have them compete in the area in a different way.
I'd like it.
I would be down. I'm always hyped for like cool controller stuff like this.
And it'll be even crazier if the triggers do have like a vitality sensor. Oh my goodness. Oh, it'd be so cool. All right. I said I was gonna talk about Metroid today, late like next week. But you know, I'm gonna talk a little bit about it now.
Hell yeah.
I'm just it's not necessarily what I was gonna talk about. This is just speculation based off of where but imagine a Metroid Prime 4 on Switch 2. They do a variety of things from a visual performance perspective. It would probably just still be 60 FPS, but visually, there'd be a lot of bells and whistles to make it look better lighting, even cleaner, sharper textures, some more particle effects, better, you know, just overall better rendering effects. Like there's gonna be things done to make it look significantly better on Switch 2, like hypothetically speaking, right? But let's say it goes beyond that. If the Switch 2 has different features that enhance the controls, then that can change some things a little bit. So if we do have these analog sticks that have resistive feedback, if maybe they do kind of work on the HD rumble a little bit more, right? They'll make it a little bit more detailed.
Right.
I would also say
bigger controller allows for more rumble.
true that. I would still assume that the Switch 1 version would have HD Rumble, right? If they're gonna use it on Switch 2, they'll have it on Switch 1, but maybe it feels a little bit better on Switch 2.
More fun.
And this other thing I threw out, like, what if there is a vitality sensor in the triggers? That could be. I mean, maybe they wouldn't use if that. Let's say that is a feature for Switch 2, right? I could see that maybe not being used for Prime 4 because that feels like we'd have to design like new gameplay mechanics, around it.
Yeah.
But man, it would be cool. It would be cool. I mean, there could be other games. It could be something that could be used for like Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, dude. I think a horror game built around a vitality sensor where it like increases different things the higher your heart rate gets or something. Like intentionally trying to get your heart rate as high as possible to scare you. That would be interesting. Like it reacts to how scared it tells that you are through your heart rate. That could be cool.
Bring back Eternal Darkness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential there. So, I mean, none of these things are necessarily leaks, right? Like they're...
No. And to clarify, I don't even think there's probably going to be a vitality sensor. It's just some wild thing that we maybe could be there.
So cool. I have more optimism for the control sticks, though. I think they gotta do something. They gotta do something to make it new.
I would be shocked if, at the very least, HD Rumble isn't like HD Rumble Plus.
I agree.
Yeah, I think they're going to invade in
to
that.
your point. If it's bigger, there's a little bit more space to kind of maybe fit in a few more motors in there, so you have a slightly more detailed response.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that makes sense. But coming back to the chat because we're gonna wrap things up here. I see the poll. We got 120 votes here. Decent amount of people watching tonight. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for all the likes. Very much appreciated. I did ask 44 minutes ago, and we got 120 votes so far. Would you be happy with the name Switch 2? And I'm surprised with the response. 90% said yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big response.
I'm gonna end the poll now. That's a clean place to leave it at. 90% said yes. I'm sure it's gonna round down because YouTube always says, "Oh, it didn't." Look at that. But that is awesome. Xbox Spartan said maybe the triggers are pressure sensitive.
Maybe, but I don't see how you can do that without a full analog movement. Like you don't have the space to press. I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
Be better to just have them be analog, but I don't know.
If you have space to do that with precision, then you could just do analog as well. And these clearly don't have the space for analog. So I don't see how you would have the space to do any kind of precise sensitivity there.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at one of these accessory leaks to see if I can get a better look at the shoulder buttons real quick.
I mean, basically, pressure-sensitive triggers is just analog triggers. That's like basically just describing analog triggers, right?
Yeah, but is there another way to like do it though?
Maybe
there is, guys. Like there are devices that can just sense how hard you're pressing on them.
Yeah, like capacitive.
I feel like this is our best look. It's arguably our best look at the shoulder buttons here. I really wish they had analog triggers, to be honest with you. But I look at this.
Yeah. I do prefer analog triggers for certain games, but I will say for games that don't use analog triggers, I vastly prefer non-analog triggers. Like any game that makes me have to hold down the trigger, I don't want an analog trigger. I want a button. I feel like it feels way better if you're using the ZL button as a button for it to be a button. Now in racing games, yeah, hell yeah, I want an analog trigger.
Isn't that why the GameCube shoulder buttons are the best? Because it's both.
I still don't like the travel because the dead zones. I don't like the developers don't always place the dead zones where I want them. So sometimes it's not consistent always. At least for me, like when I'm pressing the button, when I'm not. And like how quickly you can do that, because in certain games you need to press the button very quickly. You want an extremely fast response, but sometimes the dead zone set to where like it doesn't press the button until you're like halfway down. So if you want an instant response, like a button is going to be better.
Yeah. By the way, for those that are looking at this image here, this is the accessory that's adding this entire like grip. This is not
Yeah,
the actual Joy-Con.
they're gonna be
I'm just
flat like the current ones.
I'm just trying to get a good look at the shoulder buttons, and like I don't know how much hopium you need to like think this is an analog trigger.
Yeah, I know.
So
You
for
are correct though.
perspective,
Like I wasn't thinking about like other ways of doing pressure sensitivity. I guess I just don't. I feel
but
like
just
those
look how
would
much
probably
gap.
be expensive and potentially like could introduce like more wear. Like that's something that could go out more easily. I don't know.
You see that gap there? That's the gap for the Joy-Con. It's
Yeah.
very subtle. Maybe there's slightly more gap on the Switch 2, but it looked about the same. This is an actual controller with with analog triggers. There's a big gap between where it goes. Like we almost have like an inch of space there, right?
Yeah.
Or like half an inch to an inch. Yeah, something like that. Maybe 3/4. But yeah, there isn't much reason to think it's analog. But if there's a way it's pressure sensitive to simulate that with the Joy-Cons, because size is still an issue, and it's actually just full analog on the Switch 2 Pro controller, I'd be very happy with that.
I'm
If
curious how
that's
that would
possible.
feel. Like if that would feel good, because like yeah, I have had like iPhones where they have like the extra pressure sensitivity. You like press into them and you can press in more and it will recognize
Yeah.
that. But it doesn't like the response. The good thing about
Well, if
those
you
was
have like some
it
sort of
had like
tactile feedback,
yeah, it
that
had
can help.
feedback to press, but it's also like it's only as a second button. It's not like you press it harder and then you press it harder and harder and harder and it knows harder, harder, harder. No, it just knows
Oh,
normal press, hard press. That's
you,
it.
you went full evil demon robot there for like a split second.
So weird. But yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
do like a full analog of movement. It's just press, normal press, hard press. And you get the feedback for the hard press. I don't know. First off, I don't know if there is an actual full analog version of this where it knows how hard you're pressing or how hard you would have to actually press in order for that to work would be comfortable. And I don't know how you would get tactile feedback for an analog of movement rather than just a single button. I don't, unless there's technology that I'm not aware of, it seems to me like this would not be it wouldn't feel very good to use.
Yeah, I just think that they're not analog triggers.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
And not
Maybe the
probably,
Pro Controller, who knows?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you're gonna do
Probably
one,
not, though.
right? Like, I feel like they'd be the same, most likely. Guy you don't know here added me earlier. Something I didn't know for a while is that in Metroid Dread, when you're in the Emmy zone, you can feel vibrations in the controller that mimic a heartbeat. I didn't realize that. I want to go. Maybe I realized it in the moment. I didn't remember it, but like that is a cool detail.
Yeah, that's cool.
Kind of makes me want to go back and play the game for a fifth time. I'm not exaggerating.
I still haven't played it yet. I need to.
Should. You really should.
I gotta get around to it.
Yeah, but I'm still like, even though like I don't believe that the Switch 2 Joy-Cons are gonna have analog triggers, I am still very curious on how they feel, and I will tell you that I do like the feel of the Joy-Con triggers as they are currently. Like they are satisfying clicks. I do like how they feel. The L and R buttons are kind of too small to my liking personally.
Yeah. They seem like they're going to be bigger
They
on
look
Switch
bigger.
2,
Yeah, I think so.
because they're like a very thin strip on Switch. So I think if we look at them again, we should be able to tell pretty easily if they're bigger or not.
Oh, I'm trying to find one that shows like a straight shot of the shoulder buttons. Oh, this is a good look. Here we go. This is a really good look. Check this out. That's bigger. Okay. That's bigger. Like it's flush with the trigger, right? Pretty much, and there's a much bigger gap between the L and Z buttons there. This is like that. I mean, the trigger does look bigger as well. And now I do wonder, are we going to accidentally press the whatchamacallit? like because they're flush, are we gonna ever accidentally press one button or the other? I feel like the answer is
Right.
no. Like when you're
I
when
think
you're on the
so.
trigger buttons, you're clearly on the trigger buttons. I don't think I've ever pressed
Yeah.
LNR accidentally when trying to press the trigger. I
I
might
don't
press them
think so.
accidentally, but not because I'm pressing the trigger.
I mean, on like the Xbox One, they're like this, where they're like butted up right against each other, and I've never had that
Yeah.
issue.
So they look a little bit bigger, which is nice. Now I do have
Yeah.
There's a little bit of Hopium Maximum kicking in here because I'm like, oh, those are very nicely rounded shoulder buttons, so rounded it almost look like quarter wheels. Scroll wheel shoulder buttons, anybody?
No.
Come on, give us something, Nintendo. If you're not gonna give us scroll wheel shoulder buttons, if you're not gonna give us analog triggers, at least give us those resistive feedback control.
You know, what'd be
sticks.
interesting
Something.
is obviously these aren't like a mouse scroll wheel, but there's no reason. I mean, there is, but
Well,
there's
what if
nothing
they're
here that
touch sensitive?
denies. Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It could be touch sensitive, and you don't know.
Could be.
I don't think so, but
Could be, though.
we wouldn't know from this.
If there's like if there's like some rumble motors or haptic feedback or something, like that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they can fit in there, but that would be cool. By the way, for those who haven't seen the U-shaped kickstand, there it is. Something to note, though, if you look carefully at this image, you'll see that there's like a convex and concave analog sticks. This is just Photoshop placeholder nonsense. Like this is also an error here. It's not going to be X and Y. It's going to be Y and X. Like this is not how Nintendo buttons go. So yeah, you gotta take some of these things with a grain of salt. They have like basically they've been given the dimensions and then they show like a rendering of it with their accessory on it. So that's what we're seeing here. We're not seeing the actual Switch 2. But by the way, this is another company, one of several that have literally called it just Switch 2. So yeah. More evidence of it just being called Switch 2. And interestingly, that leak, the Reddit leak they call it console Switch 2. There's a doc that literally says Nintendo Switch 2. It's not the first time we've heard that. Like it's just kind of a lot of these things are lining up, like so it could just be an elaborate hoax, I suppose.
I mean, we've not gotten any hints of any other names other than Switch 2.
Yeah, not counting codename stuff.
Yeah, not counting codenames, which obviously don't have anything to do with the actual name of the device.
There was that YouTube survey early in the year of Nintendo Switch Attach. Yeah.
I don't remember this. What was that about?
There was a YouTube survey that was like, what console would you want? Like, it was like PS5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch Attach.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I guess then we have that. So maybe it's Attach.
Maybe.
But everything else we've ever seen or heard, it's either been we don't know the name or it's Switch 2.
Yeah. But anyways, I think that is it for the evening. I'll answer this one last question because I want to. Xbox Spartan, are we getting a Star Fox Adventures remake? We should.
Sure.
We better. There's no rumors or leaks suggesting so, Xbox Spartan, but I definitely want one. I think Star Fox Adventures remastered. Like the thing is, game already looks good.
Yeah,
like you don't even have to overhaul the visuals that much. A little bit, yeah, like widescreen, 1080p, clean up the textures, maybe add some subtle effects, but you don't have to like get a whole giant AAA team to like rework this game. It already looks great. And if you can if you can even give us a few more flying segments because they make it feel more like a proper Star Fox game, it is like it becomes the perfect game. It's already really good, but it would become the perfect game if you did that. So
I'd be hyped.
I'd be over the moon.
I liked it a lot when I was a kid. Yeah. There were some parts that were a bit hard. I feel like the fact that if you lose on the last part of the dungeon, you have to start the entire thing over again is kind of ridiculous. So hopefully they change that.
They probably will add some quality of life options. They usually do for those things.
But otherwise, I thought the game was fantastic.
It was. I do see a few ads here. That the chat jumps, so like, yeah. Connor, answer this question before you go, and Andres and Brandon. So we're we're in the week of Sonic Hedgehog 3 movie coming out this Friday, so we have 3 days till it comes out. Are you guys gonna watch it? You know, it's interesting. I feel like people have been asking me if I'm gonna.
Happening. I haven't seen the second one.
This is kind of wild, but I feel like people have been asking if I'm gonna watch the Sonic movie for the last like 3 years, and I've like kind of not watched any of the Sonic movies this entire time, and I've always intended to. I just haven't gone around to it. I haven't felt like watching them. But I don't know. I guess I will.
I mean, I'm not a Sonic guy. I've never played a Sonic game all the way through. The only Sonic game I've actually owned myself is Shadow the Hedgehog for GameCube.
How'd you like that one?
I thought the single player had some good moments, but was overall kind of meh. And the multiplayer was fantastic. But I couldn't beat the game because my disc was messed up. It was the only disc I could never fix, and I didn't even understand why it was messed up because it didn't have any visual scratches or anything. It just would not play past a certain chapter of the game. Nothing I did ever fixed it. Almost every game and movie I've ever had skips or issues with, I could fix with peanut butter or toothpaste. This one, nope. So, never got to beat that. But from what I hear, it's not like the game gets better towards the end anyways.
So I've actually been a few Sonic games. I would say I'm a fan of Sonic. Like when a good Sonic game comes out, I definitely think about it. I don't buy every single one though, so it's kind of hit or miss. I will eventually watch the Sonic movies. I just haven't gotten around to it.
I mean, I've seen the first one. I really enjoyed it. I mean,
let me get Ruby because Having Hope has asked me to bring Ruby, and I'm going to do that. But finish your thought.
Yeah, so I would give the first movie like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Like it's good. It's not the best movie I've ever seen in my life, but for a video game adaptation, I thought it was really, really good. And it's not like I don't know anything about Sonic, even though I haven't played the games. Like I know a pretty good amount about a lot of different Sonic games. Not like necessarily like the deep lore, but I've seen a lot of gameplay of a lot of Sonic games, even including 100% walkthroughs of like colors and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it was a really good adaptation of Sonic. I just haven't seen 2 yet, and so maybe I'll watch 2 on something if I can find it on something. I'm gonna be honest, I don't usually pay to watch these things, so if I have to put money into it, I might not. But I doubt I'll see 3 in theaters, but maybe if I have time to watch 2.
There she is.
Oh, look at her. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Sublime.
Careful.
Very demure. Mindful even.
One more. Let everyone see your beautiful face. Look.
Cutie.
She's tired. Here you go. There you go. Okay. All right. What'd you say about
I was just
Sonic
saying,
Hedgehog?
I've seen the first movie. I would give it probably like an 8 out of 10. Like it was really good, but it wasn't like the best movie I'd ever seen. But I thought for a video game adaptation, if you're going off video game adaptation movies alone, it's a 10 out of 10. But as far as like just being a movie on its own, I think it's like an 8 out of 10. Like, it's a great movie, but it's not like the best movie I've ever seen or anything. Like it's good. I enjoyed it. Would watch again. I'm interested in 2, but I haven't seen it yet, so I doubt I'll see 3 in theaters or anything like that. Probably will just watch them if they're on a service that I can.
Man, I probably should just watch the first one. I'll really like it, and I'm like, damn, I gotta watch all the others. So
honestly, if you're saying if you're even a little bit of a Sonic fan, I think you'll really enjoy it. Like they're good. The first one's good.
I do
not even
fancy myself a little bit of a Sonic fan.
Oh, yes, a little bit of a Sonic fan.
Yeah. But all right, thank you everyone for watching. I wish you all a fantastic evening or fantastic day, depending on when you watch this. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye, guys.